Committee on the Budget and Government Operations is called to order pursuant to applicable law and my determination that attendance by remote means is necessary because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the declared public health disaster caused by COVID-19. This meeting is conducted by video conference. I will now have a roll call to establish quorum. Please note that your yes or present response will be deemed a yes vote when this quorum roll call is used as a reference vote for later items. Please make sure your microphones are unmuted. Thank you. Vice Chair Silverstein. Alderman King. Alderman Hairston. Alderman Sawyer.
Present.
Thank you, Alderman Hairston. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Here.
Alderman Salowski Garza.
Present.
Alderman Lee.
Present.
Alderman Cardenas.
Present.
Alderman Quinn.
Here.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. I got you, Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Rodriguez.
Present.
Alderman Tabares.
Present.
Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett.
Present.
Alderman Irvin.
Alderman Irvin, present.
Alderman Taliaferro.
Alderman Taliaferro is present.
Alderman Raboris.
Present.
Alderman Wagisback.
Present.
Alderman Austin. Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
Present.
Alderman Villegas.
Present.
Alderman Mitz.
Present.
Alderman Spizzato.
Nick Sposado's here.
Alderman Napolitano.
Present.
Alderman Riley.
Present.
Alderman Smith. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Kappelman.
Present.
Alderman Osterman. Chairman Dowell is here. We have
Sawyer's present.
Alderman Sawyer, we have you.
Silverstein. Present.
Who is that?
Silverstein.
Vice Chair Silverstein, got you. And I heard another voice.
Alderman David Moore is present.
Alderman Moore is present.
Alderman Cardona is non-members present.
I got you, Alderman Cardona. We have 25 committee members present. We have a quorum. The committee has been informed that there are no public speakers this morning. So this concludes the public speaking comment period. As part of the record, the committee received a written public comment from the Sustainable Inglewood Initiative in support of the Department of Housing's ordinance to establish a pass-through grant reserve as a funding source to stabilize SRO affordable housing in Chicago. That letter has been emailed to every member of the committee. All right, we will begin with the approval of the March 2022 monthly Rule 45 report. This report was sent electronically to everyone. If there are no questions, can I get a motion to recommend approval of the March?
Riley so moves.
Thank you, Alderman Riley. So moves to the report by the affirmative vote of all members present for the roll call to determine quorum. Hearing no objections, so ordered.
Madam Chair.
Yes, hi, Alderman Smith. I have you down now for the roll call.
Thank you. I apologize for my delay.
And we also want to, Alderman Mitchell, I see, has joined us as well.
Okay, thank
Okay.
Hey, Chairwoman, Alderman Vasquez here too. Sorry about that.
Okay, Alderman Vasquez, we have you. Thank you. We have 5 items on the agenda and 1 item on the addendum this morning. Item number 1 on the agenda is from the Department of Planning and Development, and it's an ordinance concerning an amendment to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund redevelopment agreement with Ogden Washtenaw JV LLC for the property located at 2652 West Ogden Avenue in the 28th Ward. The ordinance will be explained by Robert Bumpers from the Department of Planning and Development. We also have with us Terrence Johnson, Assistant Commissioner from the Department of Planning and Development, and Jeff Head, Vice President of the Development at the Habitat Company. Mr. Bumpers?
Yes, good morning, Chairman, Chairwoman
Okay.
Dowell, members of the
Madam
committee.
Chair.
I'm going to share my screen.
Before you start, Mr. Bumpers, Alderman Irvin, you have your hand up. This item is related to your ward, is in your ward. Did you want to speak to this now or after the presentation?
Yeah, I actually asked that this matter be passed over for now. Don't even know what this is, and I'm surprised that this would be brought to council without the local alderman being briefed on the matter.
Okay, this item was sent, I believe from my staff has told me that they sent you 2 emails on this. We will hold this in committee at your request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in both instances, I told that I had not been briefed on the matter and asked to be held.
Okay, this item will be held in committee at
Thank you
the
much.
request of the Alderman of the 28th Ward. Moving on to item number 2 is from the Department of Water Management, and it's an ordinance. Sorry, Mr. Bumpers, that's it for you today.
That's quite all right. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay. The Department of Water Management is the item number 2 on the agenda. It's an ordinance concerning out-of-city water supply to Liberty Property Limited Partnership for the property located at 5064 South Merrimack Avenue, located within Stickney Township. This ordinance will be explained by Carmela Moretti, who's the Associate Staff Attorney from the Department of Water Management. We also have with us Karen Vilars, from Water Management, who's the Director of their legal services, Joel Vieira, First Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Water Management, Rich Clowitter, Attorney for the applicant, and Drew Stower, Representative for the applicant. Ms. Moretti?
Yes, good morning.
Ms. Moretti?
Oh, good morning. Sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Do you have video that you can put yourself on the screen, please?
We're working on it. Can you see us now?
Yes, we can and can hear you, so proceed.
Great. Good morning, Chairwoman Dowell and members of the Committee on Budget and Government Operations. For the record, my name is Carmela Moretti, and I am the Associate Staff Attorney with the Department of Water Management. Under sections 1112-640, 1112-650, and 1112-660, the Commissioner of the Department of Water Management is authorized to provide water services to private persons or corporations outside the corporate limits of Chicago. The proposed ordinance would allow the Department of Water Management to provide water to Liberty Property Limited Partnership for the property located at 5064 South Merrimack Avenue in unincorporated Chicago near Stickney, Illinois. The property located at 5064 South Merrimack is owned by the applicant and is an industrial warehouse facility. The facility is presently vacant. The applicant continues to market the location to prospective clients. Under the terms of the proposed ordinance, the applicant must pay for all water charges and must comply with any sanitary requirements to protect the safety and quality of the water system. The applicant is responsible for all costs associated with the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the water lines serving the subject property. This is the renewal of a connection that is required because of an ownership change of the subject property. All necessary infrastructure is already in place, and the city shall not be providing any additional services nor incurring any additional costs for this continued water delivery. The applicant shall indemnify the city against any claims arising from this continued use. The Department of Water Management respectfully requests approval of the proposed ordinance. This concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moretti. I see we have a question from Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What rate does the applicant pay for water? Is it the same rate city residents pay, or is it a higher rate?
It is the same rate. These are metered properties with the vault on city property.
And is this something that we can't annex as part of the city of Chicago? You said it was unincorporated Chicago. I never heard of such a term. But is this something that we should consider annexing?
I'm not familiar with that topic.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairwoman and committee members. This is Karen Beeler, Director of Legal Services for the Department of Water Management. Glad to see all of you this morning. I believe, Alderman Irving, your question is whether or not we should annex this property to the city of Chicago. This property is actually in Norwood Township. And it is not, I'm sorry, Stickney. I'm thinking of the subsequent presentation we'll be doing. This is in the Stickney Township, and so we would not be annexing this property to the city of Chicago. The issue is that there is no infrastructure in that township, Stickney Township, to serve this property, and it has been this way for a substantial number of years. So we do have an ordinance that has been approved by City Council to allow for out-of-city service. And this is the ordinance before you to allow out-of-city service for this specific property.
Well, I have no objection to to provide the service. I was just asking the question of annexation since it was an unincorporated area that probably is adjacent to the city. I've never seen it on the map, so I just asked the question just to see if that has the possibility to annex it and bring it into the city's tax base.
Yeah, the Department of Transportation is actually the department that handles annexation to the city of Chicago. That'd be something subsequently raised with that department.
Oh, I thought that was your bailiwick a long time ago, so I thought you may have an opinion on that. So,
Yeah, no, that would be the Department
But
of
nonetheless.
Transportation would have to review that. Yes,
okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin. Commissioner Vieira Joel, can you tell us how many accounts like this we have in total?
Sure. Thank you, Chairwoman. So when we initially did this ordinance or were looking at it, we thought there were a handful. However, subsequent to that conversation, we did some additional research and we looked through some of the much older versions of the journal, and we did find an entry where there are approximately 275 of these accounts. That data set goes back 40 years. So we are in the process of scrubbing through that data to confirm whether or not some of these addresses actually exist. Based on that information, some of those accounts actually go back to the 20s. So we're confirming whether or not these properties are still in existence. By and large, the bulk of these properties were located in areas surrounding the city that when development happened in these locations, those townships or unincorporated parts of Cook County did not have water service. So the easiest thing for these businesses and residents to do was to just tap into the existing infrastructure, which was overwhelmingly the Chicago Water Department's infrastructure. So we have approximately 275 of these accounts that we found. We are comparing that information with the data set that we've got on existing accounts. We're comparing the two. It's going to take us quite a bit to actually go through everything. But for the moment, these two accounts are the topic for this morning. So again, we're reviewing all of the accounts, and at some point we will come back to City Council with sort of our findings on this.
Thank you, Joel. Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just along the same lines as Alderman Irvin, regarding what I heard is unincorporated Chicago versus this property being in the township of Stickney. I'm curious if we meant unincorporated Cook County or if there's an explanation on the matter.
Yes, you're correct. That's probably a more accurate way to describe it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, that helps. That helps me understand this dynamic. And I'd move to pass, Madam Chair, if there's no further questions.
Thank you, Alderman Rodriguez. There are no further questions. Alderman Rodriguez moves the affirmative vote, recommends approval of item number 2 on our agenda by the affirmative vote of all members present for the roll call to determine quorum. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The due pass recommendation will be reported out at our next City Council meeting. All right, moving right along. Item number 3 on the agenda is an ordinance concerning out-of-city water supply to Lennon Carrion for the property at 5530 North Canfield, located within Norwood Park Township. This ordinance will also be explained by Carmela Moretti of the Water Department.
Great. Good morning. Good morning, Chairwoman Dahl and members of the Committee on Budget and Government Operations. For the record, my name is Carmela Moretti, and I am the Associate Staff Attorney with the Department of Water Management. Under sections 1112-640, 1112-650, and 1112-660, the Commissioner of the Department of Water Management is authorized to provide water services to private persons or corporations outside the corporate limits of Chicago. The proposed ordinance would allow the Department of Water Management to provide water to Lennon Carrion for the property located at 5530 North Canfield in Norwood Park Township. The property located at 5530 North Canfield is owned by the applicant and is a single-family residence. Under the terms of the proposed ordinance, the applicant must pay for all water charges and must comply with any sanitary requirements to protect the safety and quality of the water system. The applicant is responsible for all costs with the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the water lines serving the subject property. This is the renewal of a connection that is required because of an ownership change of the subject property. All necessary infrastructure is already in place, and the city shall not be providing any additional services nor incurring any additional costs for this continued water delivery. The applicant shall indemnify the city against any claims arising from this continued use. The Department of Water Management respectfully requests approval of the proposed ordinance. This concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Moretti.
You're muted, Chairman.
Thank you. Before we go to questions, I want to acknowledge the presence of Alderman Scott, Alderman Brookins, and Alderman O'Shea. You will be counted towards the quorum count. And we have a question.
Alderman Tunney also.
Alderman Tunney, got you.
Thank you.
And see you. Good morning.
I'm sorry, did you say me?
I got you, Alderman Brookins.
Thank you.
We'll start with questioning from Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. Norwood Park isn't that's the area on the northwest side that's totally surrounded by the city of Chicago, correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yes, northwest side.
Okay. And then what other do they have a municipal water supply themselves?
We are aware of a private delivery service for a homeowners association. This particular residence is not part of that homeowners association.
I can add something to that.
So there's no
So the reason for these accounts is sort of a reflection on how the city and the surrounding suburbs just kind of grew exponentially at the beginning of the last century. So as the city built out its water infrastructure, we built it out pretty rapidly right after the turn of the 20th century. And then some of the adjoining suburbs just hadn't caught up with the growth, the water infrastructure just hadn't caught up to the development that was happening. And so it was easier for a lot of these folks and businesses to just tap into the city's water supply, which in many instances is literally across the street. So that's why we have these various accounts. I hope that clarifies some of that, Alderman.
Well, it does clarify that. I guess my question is, if you're if you live in another municipality, and this is slightly different than the last situation where it was unincorporated Cook County, unless this is unincorporated as well. I was thinking that this is another municipality and that they would have their own water service. And why would someone come to us for water when they live in another municipality? That's really the crux of my question.
Right, yeah, we did check with the village of Norwood Park, and they said they confirmed they are not able to provide water to this property. And we did check with our engineers, and they were in agreement with that.
And so, so then the owner then has to provide a line essentially to connect to our line, or do we have to do anything to make their connection work?
Right, yes, they would need a water tap, and under the municipal code, we're asking for authorization from the council for approval to grant that water tap permit. And there is an existing connection. There is an existing connection, but there was an ownership transfer, so we're asking for approval for the new ownership for a connection.
No, I understand that statement. My question is, do we, the city of Chicago, have to provide anything else other than their ability to tap into our water? Do we have to pay for any other items or anything else? Just give them the permission to tap into our line in the city of Chicago?
No, the applicant has agreed to bear all costs, to get all permits, and to deal with any charges that the water department requests of them associated with this connection.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Spizzato, followed by Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of information, the Norwood Park Township is not surrounded by Chicago. It borders Chicago and the village of Norridge. So it borders a suburb of Norridge and Chicago. So just a point of information. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spizzato. Alderman Cardenas.
Madam Chair, similar like my colleague, Jason Irvin, I'm worried about the cost to city taxpayers. And what else we do not know about this link up to this facility. This municipality should be able to accommodate this facility. So the question is, why are they not? What is it that what is it that we don't know?
So for the record, Alderman, this is Joel Vieira again, First Deputy. This is an existing account. All the infrastructure is already in place. These folks have been receiving their water from the city, and in some of the 275 other accounts, some of them have already been receiving their water from the city since the 1920s. So all the infrastructure is already in place. All the water lines are already in place. All the water mains are already in the street. The city's not incurring any additional costs here.
So by design, even though it's not part of the city, we are providing water services for a non-municipal entity.
We are providing water services under the existing municipal code allows us to do this. This property is located literally across the street from Chicago. They've been tapping.
But it's not Chicago, though. That's the issue.
Correct.
It is not Chicago.
Correct.
So even though it's been receiving water from 1920s,
we
it is
provide,
not Chicago. And that's the issue.
Well, we provide water services to 120 municipalities. So we're already, we've been providing it to municipalities, and we've been
Do we have an
providing it.
agreement with Norwich in this case? We have an intergovernmental agreement with Norwich to provide water services for them?
We are not providing water to the village of Norwich,
Why not?
because the village of Norwich has their own water infrastructure. So again, this goes back to how these suburbs in the city kind of grew 100 years ago. So the city's water infrastructure was deployed and developed before the suburban infrastructure was. And so if you were a resident or a business living in a suburb, 80 years ago, and you were constructing a home, as was the case here, it was just easier for you to literally tap into the water infrastructure that was located literally across the street. So subsequent to that, certainly Norwich and Norwood Park built out their own water infrastructure, but because the residents in the area, or in this particular case, this particular resident was already receiving water from the city, it didn't make any sense for them to build out a separate water infrastructure literally just for that one block. Since they
So the
were-
benefit is, the benefit to the city is the fact that we are billing this entity for the water service.
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just questions as to why we're doing this, even though it's 1920s, right? Because that municipality, again, biggest the question in terms of property taxes and where they pay the taxes is to that municipality, not to the city. The only benefit is the fact that we are, sending water that way and we're billing somebody that way.
And
As long as we're
keeping-
not adding any cost,
No.
out of our pocket, in order to accommodate them instead of that municipality, then I'm good.
And keep in mind that the water infrastructure that services both of these types of situations, on the other side of the street, on the Chicago side, that same infrastructure is serving our residents and our businesses.
I mean, I get the argument. The whole point is there's different municipalities, different property boundaries, tax boundaries that we also must consider. It's just a cost. As long as there's no additional cost to the city, then I'm okay. Even though there would be next door, because we have a lot of neighbors in the city of Chicago, not just north, but also on the southwest side, Cicero, and in other suburban areas. The same thing could apply. I'm just saying that we should not be adding any additional cost to the city taxpayers and not be compensated for.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cardenas. Alderman O'Shea.
You're on mute,
Alderman
Alderman.
O'Shea, you're on mute. Your hand's up. Alderman Hairston. We'll come back to you, Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Hairston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the event that there is a water main break, is that the city's responsibility?
So, Alderman, yes, that is correct. It's the city's responsibility, but again, the water infrastructure that we're talking about is shared. So it is servicing city residents and city businesses literally on the other side of the street. So if there was a water main, yes, we'd have to go out there and perform repairs.
Okay, and have you all looked at or even asked the city of Norwich, because, over 100 years, just because it was done that way and just because the suburbs were built out that way, maybe we should look at them taking control of their own water supply to that one resident.
So the issue with that would be that there's only so much infrastructure that you can actually put in the street. So if we have a water main like on a street, which is the case here, and then the village were to come and install their own water service, there isn't enough space in which to kind of deploy both of the water mains, both of the larger infrastructure.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I also thought I heard you say that when they were building out, they made the decision not to do that, right? Because they didn't want to pay that cost of building it out. And so that therefore it was easier for them to let the city build it out and they could tap in. They made that choice, correct?
Presumably, yes.
Okay, you see the unfairness now? I get it. I get it. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Pearson. Alderman O'Shea, I'm coming back to you. Alderman Napolitano?
Thank you, Chairman. I just got a really quick question. I'm just getting really confused here. Are we talking about Norridge or are we talking about the unincorporated township of Norwood Park? Because those are two different entities. People keep mentioning Norridge, which is its own village, and then they're talking about the unincorporated Norwood Park. So I'm a little confused what's going on here.
We're talking
It's
about
Norwood
Norwood
Park.
Park.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so it's unincorporated Norwood Park, not the Norridge that keeps getting brought up. I got you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Osterman,
So I'd like to be recorded as present, Madam Chairman.
I recorded you as present minutes ago.
Thank you very much.
All right, good to see you. Is there a motion to recommend approval of item number 3 by the affirmative vote of all members?
Sawyer so moves.
Alderman Sawyer so moves, hearing no objection, so ordered. The due pass recommendation of this ordinance will be reported out at the next city council meeting. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda is from the Office of Budget and Management. It's an ordinance concerning an amendment to the annual appropriation ordinance year 2022 within fund number 925 for the Office of the Mayor. Is there a motion to accept the substitute ordinance by the affirmative vote of all members present for the roll call?
Cardenas moves.
Alderman Cardenas so moves. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The substitute ordinance is now before the committee and will be explained by Assistant Budget Director Chloe Belsack. Latoya Vaughn is not able to be with us this morning. And we also have representatives from other departments to answer any questions you may have. Chloe Belsack.
Good morning, Chairwoman Dowell and Committee on Budget and Government Operations. Today, there is an annual appropriation request for the Mayor's Office, the Department of Family Services, and the Chicago Police Department as well. The total appropriation request is for $3,316,000, new grant funds of $316,000, and new COVID funds of $3 million. The first is for the Office of the Mayor. The amount increase is for $39,000. The source of the funds is the Illinois Science and Energy Foundation. The grant name is the Smart Grid Energy Efficiency Consumer Education Program, which is through this project, the city operates a project for consumer education that engages consumers and departments pertaining to the smart grid and energy literacy in the program. This grant will support an existing position to report to the City of Chicago Chief Sustainability Officer. This position will focus on building partnerships with the Illinois Science and Energy Foundation's grantee organizations and provide visibility for consumer energy education events, either in person, virtually, reaching the residents across the city. The second request is also from the Office of the Mayor. This is an increase of $221,000. The fund source is from the Walder Foundation, and it is the Walder Fellowship. This grant will fund a 2-year fellow for the Office of New Americans in order to increase the Chicago status as a welcoming city. The fellow will be responsible for data gathering and maintaining the national relationships, as well as local lead refugee resettlement efforts, and coordinate language access through different city departments and sister agencies. The third amendment is for the Department of Family and Support Services. The amount of this increase is for $3 million. The source of the funds is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services through the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. under the CDBG grant CARES. The program will be funding to contribute and expanding the emergency food assistance for at-risk population program. This program will increase the availability and accessibility of healthy and fresh food options to assist those economically impacted by COVID-19, low income and at-risk residents to meet their nutritional needs. This program will be facilitated in partnership with contracted delegate agencies through an established network of approximately 100 food pantries located throughout the city. These pantries are located within 5-mile radius of our 6 community service areas and are concentrated on serving food insecurity desert areas. And the last and fourth amendment is for the Chicago Police Department. This is an increase of $56,000. The source of the funds is for the U.S. Department of Justice, passed through the Winnipeg County. The grant is for Project Safe Neighborhoods. This grant partners with the federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies and community partners to plan and execute enhanced violence and gun prosecution and other strategies to curb violent crimes. These funds will focus on partnering in safe neighborhood districts of the South and West Sides that have been particularly impacted by gang and gun violence. These funds will allow for increased visibility in the community, including gang intervention strategies and other forms of messaging focused on fostering and sustaining meaningful relationships with community members as one of the most effective ways to address the crime. That is all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beljack. And I just want to remind our committee that we did provide a listing of all the emergency food program pantries in the city that are affiliated with the Department of Family and Support Services. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. We'll go to questions now. Alderman Salowski Garza, followed by Alderman Ostomy.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Dahl. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your hard work. Chloe, the first item on the docket that you read was community agencies to work with the Chief Sustainability Officer. Can you just go over that one more time and tell me exactly what that is?
Sure. So it's a project for the consumer education that engages consumers and departments pertaining to the smart grid and energy literacy program. The position will focus on building partnerships with the Illinois Science and Energy Foundation, grantees organizations, and provide visibility for consumer energy education events. Well.
So my question is,
I don't know if anyone from the mayor's office is also here who wanted to speak on that.
Okay, thanks. So I want to know, like, how are those, is that for a position or is that for, I know with the We Will Chicago, we pay money to community organizations to be part of this We Will Chicago. Is this in the same realm of that? Are we gonna, and how will the community partners be decided?
Yes, Alderwoman Garza, nice to see you. This is Angela Tovar, Chief Sustainability Officer. This is an extension of grant funds for an existing position. This is a energy outreach position that we have. Community partners are not funded through this position. This is funding for a person that's on our staff already. This person does do outreach. I know we've had quite a few successful outreach events. We've had some energy town halls. We've engaged over 2,000 people in the climate action plan. These are just citywide events that we do to get people aware of the incentive programs that are available to them, as well as incentives that are available through the city. We've had events where we've talked about just commercial based programming. You may have also seen, we did an industrial energy efficiency event with stakeholders in our industrial corridor. So this person is tasked.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, I believe we had people on in your office. I'd be happy to share the flyer
okay.
with you.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that people in the corridor also participated as well, but we'd be happy to share that information with you. It was really successful. We had a lot of stakeholders.
That was a while ago. Yes.
So we'd like to do more of that. This person is on staff already. They've been here for less than a year, and we've already been able to do a lot of quite a bit of engagement. But the goal now is that now that we have this person up and running, to continue forward to make sure that we're getting those resources available to people, residents, businesses, large scale businesses, and also smaller businesses as well.
Right. I would just urge you that when you do reach out, that you include our offices. I know, the community liaison or the We Will Chicago people, the aldermen didn't have a say on who those partners would be. So I would just appreciate that you would reach out to the aldermen to make sure that we have a say on who is invited and things to these meetings. I appreciate that.
Sure, and I will just add that I know that Chairwoman Dahl did ask for a list of the ISIF grantees. These are folks that we will work with to make sure that their events are visible and that you all are aware of them. So Hub, for example, does a lot of like utility bill, education and just education broadly about solar and community energy efficiency. There's a list of those grantees from the foundation that we did provide to the chair. Happy to make sure that you see that as well. It's mostly just institutions and energy efficiency organizations, but want to make sure that you all know who else is getting this funding and who we'll be working with to get this information to you.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Oh, you're welcome, Alderman Garza. That information and listing of those partnership organizations is included in the packet of information from the Budget Committee. Moving on, Alderman Osterman, followed by Alderman Riley, followed by Alderman Cardenas.
Madam Chair, thank you. A quick question, and I have not gone through the entire packet that your staff put together, but it's very thorough. Ms. Belzak, on the funding for the food pantries, can you explain that one more time?
Couldn't find my unmute. I believe Alyssa Rodriguez from DFS is here if you want to speak more on that.
Good morning, Alderman. How are you?
Good.
So we will be using the additional funding to partner with our contractor, the Greater Food Depository, to bring resources to over 100 food pantries that are located throughout the city. Food has been one of the greatest needs that many of our clients have said that they need. And it's one of the barriers that they're facing as they, transition out of COVID. So right now, our hope is to make sure that we can get this resources out to the community to support as many vulnerable residents as possible.
And is that citywide?
Yes, the 100 food pantries right now are located primarily around the 6 service centers that we currently run at DFSS. But we encourage anyone from any community to visit any of the pantries. There's no boundary limitations. So anyone in Chicago could visit any of the 100 food pantries to access this resource.
Okay. There's a food pantry, Care for Real in Edgewater, that serves Uptown Edgewater and Rogers Park residents and expanded. I just was curious if that's part of the group that's going to get funding, or if you could get that and get back to me, I would appreciate it.
I can get back to you, but I'm pretty sure that they are part of the partners that we work with.
Okay.
But I'll check and get back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alderman Osterman, they are on the list here of the 100 food pantries. Care for Real
Yes.
on Sheridan.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Point of information, Chairwoman Dahl, which I did not see a list in all the extensive documents that I sent, and I appreciate that. I don't have one of those. I have it in front of me. I'm looking through it. I don't have a list on. Can you tell me what's the title of the attachment? Because I don't see a list.
It's under the 925. Hold on one second.
I apologize.
That was a separate attachment, Alderman Garza. We will have another copy emailed to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Riley, followed by Alderman Cardenas, followed by Alderman Tunney.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to speak to Alderman Sadlowski Garza's earlier questions about the ISIF grant funding. I'm familiar with it because I actually serve as a board member on ISIF, and wanted to just reassure our colleague that ISIF does a very good job of looking at return on investment for these grants on these educational programs. And they're supremely measurable because it's really about outreach and broadening the dissemination of information about efficiency programs and ways for consumers to save on their utility bills. And knowing that the city partners with groups like the Citizens Utility Board on utility clinics to help people reduce their monthly utility costs, and also educating people on ways to make their homes more energy efficient. It's super measurable, and all the organizations that apply for these grants are vetted thoroughly annually to make sure that they are fulfilling that mission. So I can tell you from being on the other side of this ledger, they do a really good job, and these grants are competitive, and there are lots of different community organizations that would like to participate. But if we have successful partners who are producing results, they're going to be given strong consideration for continued funding. And that's exactly why the city has a position being funded with this grant money, because they are doing a good job partnering with these other consumer education groups. So I just wanted to state that for the record. Thank you, Chairman Dow.
Thank you, Alderman Riley. Alderman Cardenas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, along the lines of my colleague, Alderman Garza, is concerned about the list of organizations that will get this funding. And if you could forward that list to me, I didn't get it as well. Would be greatly appreciated. I think this is definitely with Angela, because it sits on her, and the funding is going to be to help sustainability, which is something that we direly need. But just focus on, Angela, please, on positive activism and forward-looking, sustainable ideas for the city, climate change action, things that are positive, things that we all agree on. I would urge you to focus with your team on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Tunney, followed by Alderman Hairston.
Thank you, Chairwoman Dow. My question goes back to the DFSS funding. So the grant request, or the amount of flow through, is $3 million. And how is that being appropriated? Is there, there's 100 or so recipients. How do they appropriate this amount? On what basis?
So Alderman Tunney, we currently have a contract with the Greater Food Depository. They're our contractor to work with these 100 food pantries to get the resources out to the community. So we fund the Greater Food Depository. They work with community partners to create and manage the food pantries, and the resources then is given to the pantries to disseminate to the community.
So the food depository makes the allocation requests, and not a DFSS.
Correct. We work with the food depository. They then bring on various community partners to create and manage these pantries throughout the communities, and work directly with the food depository to making sure that they're getting the fresh produce and vegetables that they need in order to get it to the community.
And I get what they do, and let me take this opportunity to give a shout out to my Lakeview Pantry, which serves 46 and 44. I've talked with them extensively, and they're doing a satellite in the southwest side. So they're growing in other communities. And my adage is they're probably servicing thousands of clients. And so that was my question. Based on the amount of people they're serving, do they allocate this $3 million based on volume, so to speak, and access? But that would be the Chicago Food Depository.
Yes, and we work very closely with them to make sure that we can expand wherever it's possible within various communities, because we want to make sure that people are having access to food. Like I mentioned earlier, it is one of the biggest barriers that vulnerable people have. So expanding and working with our community partners is really important. And that is why we felt that this would be a really good investment, because the Greater Food Depository has already expended all of the funding that we've given them thus far. And this is an additional resource to continue supporting those that are, in areas where they're not able to access food.
Only comments referred to the Lakeview Pantry. I think they've seen a 250% increase, with COVID and such. And, so they are growing exponentially, and good for them. I mean, good and bad for them, I should say. Okay. But thank you for your comments. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Alderman Honey. Alderman Hairston, followed by Alderman Osterman, followed by Alderman O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on the good work that the food depository does. Let me ask, could we use more money in that area to help with food insecurity, like an additional $10-12 million?
Absolutely, Alderman. That's why we're making this investment now, because we know that there's a need and we're tracking that need. So, food is something that we all know people need.
Yes.
And people don't have access to on a regular basis. So these pantries provide that subsistence and that resource that is really critical for families to thrive.
Yes, I know. I have them in my ward, and I want to make sure that, if we have additional dollars or we find additional dollars, that they're really going towards programs that can help those most in need. How many, I guess this is not for you, this is for, how many staff positions are now in the mayor's office?
I don't know if we have anyone here. Hold on, maybe I saw our budget director was here for a moment. Let me see if she's still here.
Okay, and if somebody's there, I want to know how many positions were up from when we passed the budget.
Director Park, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Chairman Dowell. In terms of the mayor's office budget, I can look at the budget book if you'll give me a second regarding how many positions. On the corporate fund, it looks like we budgeted in 2022 for 99 positions.
And so we're just adding another position, and we've added some more. So how many total?
I will have to get that through the chair.
Okay.
I don't have that in front of me right
Yeah,
now.
because there have been quite a few that we've come back to budget and ask to staff, and I want to know what that staffing is up to now. For the $56,000 for the police, the grant with Winnebago County, was it? What exactly are they going to do?
Morning, Alderwoman Hairston. It looks like Elena Godrich of the Police Department is here.
Good morning. For the record, Elena Godrich. I'm the Deputy Director of Prosecutorial Strategy at the Chicago Police Department. The $56,000 is a grant through Project Safe Neighborhoods, which just for a primer in case anybody needs it, was created in 2000 to combat violence in communities across the country. Project Safe Neighborhoods is based on a collaboration between state, federal, and local law enforcement, as well as community interaction. The goal of Project Safe Neighborhoods, generally speaking, is not to increase prosecutions, it is to reduce violence in these communities. Within Chicago, the U.S. Attorney's Office administers Project Safe Neighborhoods, and the districts that they work in are the 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 15th police districts. What this grant does is provide funding in support of gang investigations and violence reduction in those districts. 70% of the grant funding will go to community engagement, and the other 30% will go to equipment to be used by gang investigation officers.
Okay, $56,000 is not a lot of money considering the issues that we have in the city. We also have those issues in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th police districts. And I don't know what the strategy is or why they've been left out, but we need to be expanding this pool. Violence is at an all-time high. People do not feel safe. Surely you could use another $10-12 million to help increase the effectiveness. What kind of outreach will they be doing under this program?
First of all, I completely agree, and there are many other grants that we pursue as well as other strategies in the entire city. The constraints of PSN are set by the U.S. Attorney's Office, which limits this grant to those police districts. As far as the community engagement.
Wait a minute, can you tell me why?
The PSN program is federal, so in all areas in the country, it's administered by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Okay, so we would need to ask the U.S. Attorney's Office why they decided these districts.
Correct.
Okay, because when we talk about equity, the decisions are not being made at this level. The decisions are being made at the federal level, and that's why the neighborhoods are not getting the resources. And I want to point that out to all of my colleagues. It's not being done at this decision at this level. It's being done at the other level. So when we talk about not having enough resources in the neighborhoods at the local district, it's because the decisions are being made at a higher level, not to give those resources to us. We're just being cut out. I just want to bring that up. And then I also just want to comment on something my colleague Sadlowski Garza talked about. And I think that this has been something, and this is not to you, this is to everybody here, about the aldermen not being included in decision-making and not being consulted. This has been something that has been consistent for 3 years. So, I don't know if we as alder people stop waiting for them to do something different, because apparently they are not going to do anything different. And if that is the case, then we need to be stronger as a council and demand that we be included. Otherwise, we have the authority to hold some of these things up until we are included. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hairston. Wanted to also add that the 8th district, which was not mentioned by the representative from the police department, is also included in this program. Alderman Osterman.
Quick comment, Madam Chairman, to Ms. Rodriguez from DFFS, and kind of pivots off of a comment by my colleague, Alderman Tunney. A lot of the food depositories and food shelters are taking on additional capacity with the impacts of COVID and are setting up satellite locations. So I think that Care for Real is doing that with Rogers Park. Is the department working with the food depository to look at those geographic gaps? And part of the reason some of these depositories are doing this is because other ones have closed. So is the department working to see where we have those structural food gaps? And are they looking to try to address that with new organizations or additional funding to help expand it on a more permanent basis? Because the need's not going away.
You're absolutely correct, Alderman. The need's not going away. And we work very closely with the Chicago Food Depository. Throughout the last couple of years, we've actually increased our food pantries, and we will continue to do that. We currently work with other city departments on a food equity task force to make sure that we're looking at such things, to make sure that we're looking at equity as it relates throughout the communities, and making sure that we're bringing the food pantries to the communities that need it the most. So yes, we are currently doing that. And our hope is to expand not only our footprint throughout the community, but also expand available funding so that we can continue to provide this resource.
So if you can, through the chair, do a map of Chicago and kind of look and give the members of the committee kind of where these pantries are and what has been added recently, so that we can as well look at the gaps within our own communities and citywide.
Yeah, and I welcome your input in terms of where we could potentially bring additional pantries to. And if available funding is there, then we definitely will look into expanding.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. Alderman O'Shea.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to follow up some of the comments of my colleague, Alderman Osterman. In my community, we have the Maple Morgan Park Food Pantry. Pre-COVID was assisting between 500 and 600 families a month. They're now helping more than 2,000 families per month. Before COVID, we serviced Beverly, Morgan Park, Mount Greenwood, West Pullman, Washington Heights. Over the past 2 years, and my office has organized more than a half dozen food drives to support them. You can add Pullman, Fernwood, Brainerd, Auburn, Gresham, Scottsdale, Ashburn, Wrightwood, Riverdale, all those communities. There is such a need. There are so many more families in need of assistance. Anything we can do to promote that. Ms. Rodriguez, appreciate all the partnership with working with the food depository, but what my community has done these past few years working and more people on the south side, so many of these pantries, we have found the volunteers and the staff are older. And those folks, they're afraid to come back to work. They're afraid to come back into the pantry. They're typically confined areas. My pantry is in the basement of a church. Right now, we're working on a $750,000 expansion of that basement of a church. The ceiling's 8 feet high. The need is greater. The demand is greater. And anything we can do to fund that and expand that. But we've been living it out here for the past 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Shea. I don't see any of the questions out there from my colleagues. So is there a motion to recommend approval of item number 4 by the affirmative vote of all members present for the roll call to determine quorum?
So moved.
So moved.
Alderman Brookins, so moves. Hearing no objections, so ordered. The do pass recommendation will be reported out at the next city council meeting. Item number 5 on the agenda is from the Department of, Alderman Villegas, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Are you going to resend that list over of the pantry locations?
We'll put you down for that, Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, appreciate it.
No problem.
Madam Chairwoman, Alderman Lee needs that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will resend it to everyone. Item number 5 on the agenda from the Department of Housing, an ordinance approving the creation of the single room occupancy SRO preservation loan program and a grant agreement with the Chicago Investment Corporation, CIC. This ordinance will be explained by Lisa Stevens of the financial planning analyst at the Department of Housing. We also have with us Esther Sorrell, Brian Essenberg, Stacy Young, and Jack Crane from the Department of Housing and from CIC. Ms. Stevens?
Good morning, and thank you, Chairwoman Dowell and members of the committee and our guest.
Ms. Stevens, would you put your video on, please?
Absolutely. Just give me a moment to share my screen. Is this visible?
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
Great, thank you. Good morning, all. We are coming to you today to present the SRO Preservation Loan Fund. Our goal with the creation of this program is to preserve this unique form of housing stock, to create affordable.
Ms. Stevens, can you please put your video on so that we can see you?
I'm sorry, yes.
And then continue with your presentation. Thank you.
No problem. I'm just trying to pull up my grid here so I can access. Okay, thank you. Coming to you today to present the Preservation Loan Fund, again, where we're preserving this unique housing stock, creating affordability where it already does not exist, and to improve the viability and longevity of these existing facilities. So we do have a unique problem. The emergence and the popularity of micro units have enticed many of our SRO owners and residential hotels to sell to market rate developers. In 2021, the Department of Family and Support Services developed a very comprehensive point in time study illustrating our homeless and at risk of homeless population, which stands at 4,477 at that time, of which just over 3,000 were in shelters and just over 1,400 were considered to be unhoused. We correlated that with HUD's figures on what we considered to be an extremely low income individual. To be at extremely low income, that means that for area median income, one single individual would make $19,600 per year. But HUD also considers the US poverty line to rest at $13,590. But we do know that our homeless population rests firmly within this poverty line figure. And knowing this, we are creating a situation where when we're losing this SRO housing stock, this population is at even further risk when they already have very few choices for housing. As an example, the Wilson's Men's Hotel, which is now the Wilson's Club, but actually ended up being a fairly good scenario for us. We were able to get some voucher infusion when this building was sold and renovated and reopened. We did lose an amount of units that were available. So prior to its renovation, it did have 246 SRO units, which was whittled down to 76 studio and 1 bedrooms, with an average market rent of $1,300 and an average affordable rent of $450. While we do consider this to be a pretty marginal victory because we were able to establish some affordability at this location. If you look to the right, there are several buildings that have been sold in the last 7 years that went fully market with little to no restoration of affordability. When we look at the changing landscape of registered SRO buildings in the city of Chicago, in 2014, at the time that the SRO preservation ordinance was created, there were 81 registered SRO buildings. That has now come down in 2022 to 40. These numbers are maintained by Chicago's Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection and their licensing division. And it's a very organic listing that changes frequently. As you can see, of the 40 SRO developments that are registered, it is fairly dispersed throughout the city. But again, this stock is diminishing. There are over 30 properties that could be classified and licensed as SROs because they are operating as such. We do not want to look at these numbers as necessarily a complete loss, but we do have an opportunity for the city when we desire to reestablish and relicense those that have lost their licenses and getting them relicensed as SROs. So in the creation of this program, DOH has a very strong interest and a priority to help maintain existing SRO buildings and help bring vacant properties back to a functional use. We do want to note that this program is an addition. It's an additional tool to the money that DOH already infuses into SRO housing. We have funded over $260 million into SRO housing through examples like Lawson House and the Covent SRO. But the reality is not all buildings are viable tax credit properties, and some just need an infusion of assistance for their preservation of their current operations. And it is our goal to preserve this existing housing stock. In the creation of this program, DOH partnered with CIC, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, the Shriver Center, and other housing policy advocates and SRO owners for over 1 year to help form focus groups. We had monthly compact sessions, conducted owner surveys, and again, had specific focus groups specifically with the owners to ascertain their needs. It is DOH's intention to partner with the Community Investment Corporation, or CIC, to offer SRO owners an incentive program to help their SRO properties. Give some background with the city's partnership with CIC. We have a long-standing relationship with them as they are a certified delegate agency. They help to run and operate our TIF purchase rehab program and our troubled buildings initiative. CIC does specialize in helping to preserve naturally occurring affordable properties. So naturally occurring affordable properties are properties that are market dictated to be affordable, even though they may not have formal regulations or agreements. In 2021 alone, CIC provided $70 million for 87 loans, preserving over 2,500 units within the city of Chicago. They currently serve as a senior lender on over a dozen city-subsidized multifamily properties. They are a preferred lender for our SRO owners currently due to their favorable lending practices. And in the establishment of this program, DOH will establish a $5 million sinking fund with city's multifamily available funds. So the purpose of this is to provide a refinancing subsidy through CIC that will assist current SRO owners or prospective buyers with lowering their overall debt service and helping them to maintain their buildings' current operations as SROs. We want to secure long-term affordability, and we want to ensure the long-term operational health of these existing. So how will this work? Any developer, SRO developer, can complete CIC's application and underwriting process, whereas CIC will determine the financial need. Properties must utilize a minimum of 50% of private debt before program funds can be granted. The construction financing that is provided by CIC will convert to a permanent long-term mortgage once the properties are stabilized. That is where the SRO Loan Preservation Fund comes in. So the proceeds from that fund can provide up to 50% of a loan pay down upon refinance. So this helps to reduce the overall operating expenses to assure the building's long-term stability. So in essence, by coming in with a loan pay down to basically chop a mortgage in half, that is cutting a monthly mortgage payment in half. And there is going to be a great cost savings for those SRO owners that are then able to pass those cost savings down to their residents. And again, a large aspect of this program is for us to create and maintain affordability. So owners may choose either a 50% AMI model or income averaging of up to 80% AMI for each 30% unit. So if any units are going to be going for 80%, then there must be an offset at 30%. Percentage of restricted units are going to be determined by the level of investment. As you can see in the table, the larger the investment, the more affordability that the city is going to be mandating. And this mandate will be maintained through a regulatory agreement that will run with the land. Our recommendation today is to approve the creation of the SRO Loan Preservation Fund, as well as approving the initial allocation of $5 million to this fund. SRO owners who have participated in our focus groups have already expressed a great deal of interest in participating in this program. And it is important for us to socialize this program to the best of our ability to all current and potential SRO owners. Thank you for your time. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stevens. Very detailed presentation. Thank you. We'll now go to questions, starting with Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you, Chairwoman Dowell. I'll reluctantly support this, but I still remain concerned that we're using resources to assist SROs that are 250 square feet in size when we can rehab studios and one-bedroom apartments for the very same cost. I understand this is for people who are at high risk for becoming homeless. Many of these people have a supplemental security income or no income at all. So they earn around 15% of the AMI. And this ordinance still has that group of people paying 60% of their income for rent. The fact of the matter is, there's no such thing as a market rate apartment for someone on SSI. They have to have some really extreme subsidies. It should be around $280 a month for their apartment. And that does not exist under this this ordinance. So I understand this is a pilot project, but I want a pilot project for my ward to do this very same thing. But I want it for studio and one-bedroom apartments, which would cost virtually the same. And it would allow people experiencing extreme poverty the ability to remain in their home should they enter into a relationship, or should they require someone to stay with them while they're recovering for an illness. People living in SROs don't have these kind of options. And I believe those with a very, very low income deserve better. So I will reluctantly support it, but I'm not happy about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kappelman. Will someone from the Department of Housing respond to what the Alderman is bringing up here, please?
If I could respond briefly to the entire committee. Please keep in mind that this program is in addition to the other programs that we already.
I'm sorry, Chairman, could she identify?
I'm sorry, you're absolutely correct, Alderman Harris. Ms. Sorrell, would you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, sorry, Madam Chair. My name is Esther Sorrell. I'm the Assistant Commissioner in the City of Chicago Department of Housing Finance Division. I also manage the Asset Management Division, which is the author of this program. To reply, please keep in mind, this is a pilot program that is in addition to all of the other programs that we have in-house to do those very concerns that Alderman Kappelman has raised. We learned a lot from the pandemic, and that the city relied heavily on SROs to house a very vulnerable population. And in return, those owners, relayed to us the issues that they were having with the city, and the support that they needed in order to remain operational. So while we definitely understand and want to respond to your concerns, we feel that this also is a niche that needs to be addressed. And we would like to continue to work with you and work with our other programs to address the concerns that you have in your ward for studios and one bedrooms. But we don't want to lose any more of these buildings. As you could see from the graphic that Lisa presented, that we've lost 40 SRO buildings over the last few years. We don't want to erode that number anymore. We know that many SRO owners do keep those rents at a level that is attainable for people on very, very low income. And we want to be able to preserve that so they can continue offering a lower rent, while we also continue to work on creating and rehabbing properties with other funds that we have in the department.
I would just add that those rents and these SROs are around $500 or $600 a month. And their SSI check is $840 a month. So it's not realistic for someone living on SSI. Anyone on SSI will tell you that. And I want a commitment from Department of Housing. I want a pilot project in my ward for people to have remain in studios, 1 bedrooms. That's what I want. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kaplan. And I'm sure that if it's a pilot program, it would be citywide, as we probably have other areas that are experiencing some of the same issues that you're experiencing. But your point has been made, and thank you. Alderman Osterman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to commend the Department of Housing, Ms. Sorrell, Commissioner Navarra, and all the people that are involved in this ordinance. I will tell you that this ordinance came about because the advocates and people who live in SROs demanded it. And I think that while the Department of Housing is looking to address expanding more affordable housing, the reality is that there are individuals every day who call these SRO their homes. And it's important that there's some funding to help make sure that the living conditions in these SROs is something that we would want residents to be able to live in and not in squalor. And I think that it's a small amount of money. It should be more. But if we're able to help lift up and support some of the renovations that are needed to make these a little bit nicer for the residents who live there, it's going to be helpful to them and their quality of life. And they are Chicagoans. And as Ms. Sorrell has pointed out, we've lost half of the SROs in our city in the last, since 2014. There are not a lot of new SROs being built. And I think, these are places that are helping folks get off the street, out of tents and living in homelessness. So I think it's important for all of us to really do what we can to help support them. And the Department of Housing is going to look at where these SROs are going to use the money, how they're going to use the money, make sure that the commitments are there from the owners of the SRO so that the money is not going in their pockets, but into their buildings to help residents of Chicago. So I appreciate this effort and the advocates that push for it, and would ask my colleagues to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. Alderman Sadlowski Garza, followed by Alderman Hairston.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Sorrell and Commissioner Navarro for this very important ordinance. I have a question, and I apologize. There's on the map that you sent, there is a dot in my map in my ward. And would you be able to, I've tried to blow it up. I cannot get the street out. It's too blurry. Can you tell me the name and address of that facility? I believe I know what it is. I believe it's 102nd and N, but I just wanted to confirm with you. And then I have a comment about that.
Yes,
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. No, yeah, I'll be happy to get that for you as soon as possible. So you continue and I can get that to you.
Okay, yeah, I would appreciate that because we do have an SRO on 102nd and Avenue N. We have received on a weekly basis. It's all men, and there's 4 people to a bedroom in bunk beds. And actually, like Chairman Osterman had said, I want to make sure that somebody is following through on making sure that these renovations and these upgrades are really going to make the living conditions livable, because right now that building there's a lot of issues there. And I try to work with the owner, but it's very, very difficult. She's not on premises, and the people that are living there are dealing with a lot of issues, not just building department issues, but a lot of other issues within that building. So if you could get that to me to see if that's the one, I believe it might be, but I just wanted to double check. Thanks, Lisa.
No problem. I do believe that that's the Beacon House at 10047.
That's it.
So
yeah.
We will coordinate. Yes.
I would love to do a walkthrough with you guys. I've been in there before, and I don't know if your department went there to look at the inside of this facility before giving them a grant. They definitely need upgrades. it is in dire need of help, and the person that runs it is not doing things on the up and up. So I want to make sure that there is follow through and the money goes to actually do what it's supposed to do. So I'd be happy to work with you on that, Lisa. Thank you.
Alderman. Thank you, Alderman Garza.
Thank you.
Alderman Hairston, followed by Alderman Mitz.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we could get an assessment, if the department could perform an assessment on all of our SROs in the different wards, so we could know all of the issues that are existing. So that would include buildings, that would include housing, that would help. I agree with Alderman Kappelman. But I really want us to begin approaching this in a thoughtful way, and in a way that makes sense, other than just throwing money at it piecemeally. So if we could get an overall assessment. I was wondering also if I could get an organizational chart of the department and all of the different sub-departments. There have been a lot of changes and a lot of title changes. And so if you could provide through the chair an organizational chart with names of departments and people that are over them, that
Alderman Hairston, I believe you froze. You froze up, but I think you were asking for an organizational chart because of all the changes in the department. You want it by names.
And department subtitles, there was operations and finance, and all of them. I just need to familiarize myself with all of the new changes.
Okay,
thank you. Mm-hmm.
Alderman Mitz, followed by Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Chairman. And let me just start off by saying thanks to the Housing Department, Chairman Osterman, for your leadership, and for the department to think for the first time that SROs matter. I have to say dittos to you for that, because whereas we're dealing with the homeless population, that's the step above homelessness for our SROs. And I do have one that housed over 200 residents. And I visit it often. There's a huge need to help people to turn their life around. But I think that was Alderman Kappelman said in a briefing, we need to make sure that we have some type of healthcare or mental or psychology on staff to be able to help assess and give people some direction. Now, in terms of SROs, because we have not invested in them for quite some time before the pandemic, they have took a huge drop. That's why you see the lack of affordable housing now, the lack of SROs, but also these owners cannot maintain because government wasn't giving them any funding, city wasn't doing anything, and these buildings are sitting there deteriorating. And I really want to be able to at least help provide some assistance to them. They're struggling, and I know that they're struggling, but also the people in the building are struggling. And I always say, if we can't help the least of these, then who are we going to help? So yes, we can always do more, and I do know that. And I'm sure that as we continue to work with this issue, that we will get there, because we have to start. And I'm grateful for you starting because I know this funding, there is someone going to be helped. But I wanted to get a list of the SROs that we have and the number of residents that they are housing in each one of those SROs, their locations. That could be helpful to all of us if you provide it so that we can start monitoring how we're going to help people to prevent being homeless on the street. And you know, as we continue to move forward, the problem is not going to get better at this moment. So we're going to have to really dig in with all hands on deck, if you will, for everybody to be conversating more. So I would recommend that we have a discussion around SROs, Chairman, as we continue to move forward more frequently so that we can help people to be able to get in an SRO, perhaps help the community be educated so that they can know where to refer people to, so at least they won't be out on the street. So I want to just ditto and say thank you all, Lisa, Commissioner Navarro, for the thought behind trying to help people to be able to have housing. You know, I want to mention that it was during Christmas time, just to give you a small story. There was this young lady who had been sleeping in her car in my ward. She had 3 children, and they was out in the cold. And finally, in working with the Family and Support Service and Housing, they were able to get her a place to stay for her children as she tried to transition to a better housing. But it was a starting point to get her out of the car and out of the cold. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Mitz, especially for that story. Sometimes we need to hear stories like that about what's going on the ground. And I appreciate you bringing that forward. We do provide you with a list of the SRO properties by ward and by address. What's missing is the information you're requesting on the number of people housed at each location. And Esther Sorrell, is this something that you are able to provide us information on?
We'll do the research in order to get that.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Cardenas, followed by Alderman Burnett.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, this is a very tough item. I support it 100%, obviously. It's heartbreaking when you see homeless camps, and these camps are now using state-of-the-art, you know, nylon like tree canopies. I see them in Newark, I see them in Tri-Taylor, I see them in West Town. And so now we know where the money is going to go, obviously. But what I want to know, and I think I've said it in committee, in another committee meeting, in a briefing, where exactly is this homeless population and how are we tracking that? And if there's a strategy to contact these homeless camps, letting them know that there are housing options like these SROs. So we are putting this up, but are we letting folks know that are in dire need of housing about this housing option?
Thank you, Alderman Cardenas. So the DFSS usually does the tracking for the homeless population in terms of, you know, not just the numbers, but generally, you know, where they're located. So I know that they do their best to socialize where people can go get help. So, you know, a part of also what we're doing through this program is helping the SRO owners to not just socialize, and not just help them with the, you know, help stabilizing the building, but we're also trying to help make connections with DFSS with the Illinois Department of Public Health, in any other entities that could provide supportive services, because that is the best way to socialize to the homeless population what their options are, where they can go for assistance. So I know, again, DFSS is doing a tremendous amount of work with their study that they started in 2021. We're working to help just kind of piggyback off of that to help bridge that gap, because I think a lot of SRO owners don't even know how they can outreach to people who would potentially be residents and who need shelter and vice versa. So we're working to help bridge those gaps.
Thank you. Thank you about that. And I forgot to add in this, so if DFSS is listening, if you drive by the I-90 corridor, right on Taylor, I think there's an entrance there. There's a homeless camp there. But if you think about all the emissions from these trucks and vehicles that are zooming down the highway 24/7, these folks literally are living there. And I just wonder what the human impact is from a pollution standpoint. They're breathing the constant fumes. And if we are measuring at all any of that stuff, and there's a chance to relocate them, I think we should do that. I think that's to me, it's a health tragedy that we're allowing that to happen along a very dangerous area that we know it's high in pollution.
Thank you, Alderman Cardenas. Elisa Rodriguez, who was here with us earlier from DFSS, is not on the Zoom anymore, so perhaps you should follow up with her afterwards. We will get this message to her.
We'll do that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Alderman Burnett, followed by Alderman Irvin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And I know if I'm not mistaken, this did come before the Department of the Committee of Housing. Am I correct, Harry? No? Or I was just brief with you.
There were meetings on this with housing.
All right, fantastic. And the briefing was very helpful. So I don't have any questions. I just want to take this opportunity to commend you all on all your efforts on helping to sustain these SROs. And you know, God knows we need more because we don't have enough. The challenging thing is that most of our SROs are in gentrifying neighborhoods, right? And it's harder and harder to sustain them when folks are offering a lot of money for them. Right. And those and folks who live in these SROs, people had the wrong impression that they all just come off of the viaduct on Taylor Street. Some of them are students. Some of them have, minimum wage jobs, and they just want to be close to where they work or where they go to school and all of those things. So it's a myriad of people who live in these type of facilities, or they just may have a disability, you know. They may have worked all their lives and have a disability and can't afford regular housing because they living on SSI or something like that, and they may be young. Right. So I just want to commend you all on all of your efforts. Thank you guys for, I know we was talking about the hotel or SRO over there on Washington Street. Thank you for your efforts with that. I'd like to meet with you all later on and talk about that a little more and see where we are with that. Because, when these places close down, where do those folks go? Right. So thank you guys very much. I commend you guys on this new initiative. It's fantastic, and keep it up. Y'all doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin, followed by Alderman Lee.
Yes, I too want to commend the department on this. I think this is a great initiative, as Alderman Burnett talked about these gentrifying areas where these SROs are. We do need to maintain this level of affordable housing in the community. So I definitely support this effort and look hopefully after the pilot phase to expand on the ability to do this in other areas around single room occupancy. So thank you guys and look forward to supporting this.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin. Alderman Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to echo alongside my colleagues the great work on this initiative and this pilot. I'm in full support of it. I don't believe that there are any SROs in my ward, but obviously we've got a homeless problem all over the city, including my ward. So very interested in staying close and figuring out how we continue to support these homeless populations with supportive housing and all of these wraparound services. So thanks for all the work that you're doing and look forward to working with you more on this.
Thank you, Alderman Lee. There appears to be one in your ward on this list that the department has provided on 2500 South Troop in the 11th ward.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay. I see that I'm using my chair prerogative. I see Stacy Young here, the president and CEO of CIC is with us, and I was wondering if you could just speak to tell people about CIC and how you'll be working on this program.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the opportunity to partner with the city on this really great program to preserve SROs. As everyone has said, they're such an important part of the housing stock. Really to highlight what CIC is up to and why we're so excited about administering this program. We're a nonprofit lender. We're known as a community development financial institution. We have financed the acquisition and rehab of small and mid-sized multifamily rental buildings since 1984. So we've financed nearly at $1.6 billion to preserve 66,000 units. Typically, the buildings we're financing are unsubsidized. This is known as naturally occurring affordable rental housing. Most of the buildings that we're financing are the smaller rental buildings. Think of a 6-flat, 24-unit courtyard building. Really those buildings that anchor our blocks and our neighborhoods. And our borrowers are typically local small businesses. Half of our borrowers are led by people of color. We're a nonprofit lender, as I said. We still are a lender. We expect to be repaid, but we are different than the commercial lenders. We can be flexible and creative in how we create programs and underwrite buildings. And it's because of that flexibility and expertise that we're really comfortable underwriting and financing SROs. And we've done over 2,200 SRO units over the years. Again, the commercial lenders typically avoid SROs, so we're really familiar with them. In the 90s, we actually administered a program partnering with the city, again, called the SRO Refi Rehab Program. In addition to the lending program, our big multifamily rental lending program I just described, we've partnered with the city for years on the TIF Purchase Rehab Program for multifamily buildings. We also have other programs that support rental buildings in our neighborhoods more generally. We have a property management training program to build owner capacity. We administer the Troubled Buildings Initiative that Lisa mentioned earlier, which is another great city partnership. And so the other thing that we bring to the table, because we just do this kind of rental housing day in and day out, we're really familiar with a range of additional resources to help owners preserve their buildings, SRO owners, but all owners. So for instance, we work very closely with the assessor's office on a new rental property tax incentive that incentivizes owners to keep their buildings in good condition and keep units affordable. We also make sure that owners know about energy efficiency resources, and we keep close tabs on other resources available for rental owners, like rental assistance, which is so important for these extremely low income renters. There's not enough of it, but sometimes we're able to make those connections and really help some of those extremely low income renters be able to afford rent. So this is a really exciting program. The structure is a bit different, so it can be really efficient and stretch over more units and preserve more buildings than typical subsidy programs. So again, just wanted to thank you for the opportunity again to partner on this program and to speak for a minute. We're honored to be a partner with the City of Chicago on many programs and hope to be a great partner on this program as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young, for that. Alderman Smith, see your hand up.
Thank you. I just want to thank you all for and will support this. Speaking on behalf of one of the first areas of the city that gentrified, we didn't have this kind of program available. We just didn't, and we lost 3,500 two flats in 10 years between 1990 and 2000, and then more between 2000 and 2010. So I think this is a really, really great idea because these two flats and smaller homes really are what keeps affordable housing in our community. So I applaud the effort and we'll be voting to support it. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Chairman, excuse me.
That's okay, Alderman. Thank you for your comments. I too want to register support for this project. I think it's a great pilot program and look forward to us moving this along. Before I ask for a motion to recommend, I do want to call on Managing Deputy Commissioner Essenberg to speak to the MBE WBE component of this initiative. As we talked over the weekend, I want to make sure that this is put on the record. Mr. Essenberg.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Brian Essenberg, Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing. Thank you again for the interest and the support, and like to continue and say this is just one of many programs in which we create affordability and deal with SROs. And then to the Alderman's concern, yes, the intention of this program is a loan fund. But if there's any direct granting of money to any organization for construction, which is an option, then of course we're going to follow the city's requirements in MBE and a prevailing wage.
All right, wanted to get that on the record. So is there a motion to recommend approval of item number 5 on the agenda by the affirmative vote of all members present for the roll call to determine quorum?
So moved by Irvin.
Alderman Irvin so moves. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The due pass recommendation for this ordinance will also be reported out at our next city council meeting. Now we will go to the addendum. We have one item on the addendum this morning. Item number 1 is from the Office of Budget and Management, an ordinance amending the 2022 annual appropriation ordinance and creating a transportation assistance program. This is a direct introduction. The ordinance, as you all remember, was previously discussed during the April 6, 2022 subject matter hearing. However, no votes were taken. Many of you raised important questions, and as a result, we have an ordinance before you today that has been changed. And the changes in this ordinance will be discussed by Susie Park, our Director of the Office of Budget and Management. And with her today is Jenny Bennett, our Chief Financial Officer, and Reshma Soni, our City Comptroller, who's also available for questions. Director Park.
Thank you and good morning, Chairman Dowell, Vice Chairman Silverstein, and members of the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations. As Chairman Dowell stated, this item is requesting approval to amend the 2022 annual appropriation ordinance in order to create a $12.5 million transportation relief fund for a transportation assistance program that will distribute up to 100,000 prepaid transit cards and up to 50,000 prepaid gas cards. I'm actually going to turn this over now to the Chief Financial Officer, Jenny Bennett, to provide information on the program and the changes that we made.
Thanks, Susie. Good morning, Chairman Dow, Vice Chair Silverstein, and members of the committee. My name is Jenny Huang Bennett, and I'm the CFO for the City of Chicago. As we discussed at the last Budget Committee meeting, the city has proposed a transportation relief program called Chicago Moves, aimed at combating the increasing transportation challenges presented by spiking cost of gas in the city. One update on the program includes applying the equity lens for distribution to both the gas and the transit cards. 75% of both gas and transit cards issued will be distributed to areas identified as having suffered from high mobility hardship, which is highlighted in the map that was provided to the committee through the chair. And then lastly, we expect for the Chicago Moves program to provide a deep investment, which should impact approximately 30% of eligible households. With that, I'm happy to take any further questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, CFO Bennett. Alderman Salwowski Garza, I'm sorry, I'm calling
Oh,
your
no,
name
that's
off
okay.
mute.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Dahl. This money's coming from the corporate fund, correct?
Yes, it is coming from the corporate fund.
Okay, so we're hiring North Lane Technologies to oversee this program. What are they charging the city to oversee this?
They're not charging the city any fees to oversee the program. They're providing the cards free of charge. They're also providing us with ability to provide notifications, to encourage folks to use the card, as well as, kind of all of the associated administration that goes along with it.
Okay, and we dropped the average median income to 90,000, was it?
It's to 100% of average median income, or area median income rather. And it depends on the number of people in the household. So if you're a family of 4, then it would be $93,000.
That's 93,000 is a pretty good chunk of change to be giving people a gas card. I mean, at least in my neck of the woods, it is. I would like to see this money go into something more sustainable. I am going to be a no on this. I don't think this is a good move. If you got a car, you're filling it up twice and it's over. I'd like to see this money go into something a little bit more sustainable, like mental health, homelessness, food deserts, something that can actually impact people's lives overall. So I'd like to be recorded as a no on this. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Salwowski Garza. Alderman Nick Spizzato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo the comments and thoughts of my colleague. I said those exact same things in the briefing. I'm also a no, but CFO Bennett or Jenny, I like to just call you Jenny, but everybody's so sensitive nowadays. I consider you a friend and a good resource for me. But I keep hearing equity, Jenny. How do you figure equity? I mean, equity to me would be if we're giving out 5,000 cards and every ward gets 100 cards. So explain the equity portion to me.
Sure. So it's intended to support what we have seen from external parties around high mobility hardship. So in other words, the money goes to those who are suffering from transportation challenges. And that's really what the equity component is intended to address, is the fact that there are certain areas of the city we know have a higher number of households that are suffering from mobility hardship.
So potentially, not saying it's going to happen, potentially if we gave out 5,000 cards, one ward could potentially get 500 of them and one ward could get 0.
Yes, there will be a higher allocation to certain wards that have, as I said, based on the data, a higher number of households who do suffer from mobility hardship.
And back to the suggestions from the briefing about more security on the train line, something that's more sustainable, once again, mental health, food insecurities in neighborhoods, to the Greater Chicago Food Depository or local food pantries. All of those suggestions we're moving full steam ahead with this thing and we're giving out cards. And once again, I think it's a decent amount of two if somebody, not that you're knocking it out of the park if you got a family of 4 making 93,000, but you're making a decent living. So, I mean, I'm more for helping people that really need it. So I too can't support this, but I appreciate your efforts and, I just had to have my say, and I just wanted a definition of an equity because I keep hearing equity from some of my colleagues all the time, and I don't see any equity in this program. So, but thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spizzato. Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been doing a lot of thought and having a lot of conversations with leaders in my community and folks in my community about this issue. I certainly have my issues with this framework, the way it's been presented. I, for one, would have preferred this money to go to the Universal Basic Income Program. But at its core, we're redirecting money to working class people. I prefer it to be even a bit lower than it is, in the same manner that my colleague Sue Garza has articulated. But again, at its core, we're taking resources and putting them towards working class people. And to that extent, I find it hard to be against that. I've had a significant number of calls into my office from poor folks interested in getting this support. I too would love it to be more sustainable, but given the dynamics of this council and given the dynamics of the time, I'm not sure I'd be able to muscle through overturning this effort and putting 12.5 million into the universal basic income. So for that reason, I'm not excessively excited about this, but I will be supporting this because it will be going to working class communities. And I would ask the chair to send once again to the full city council the map of the wards and the areas that will be prioritized if this does pass out of committee today. I do want to ask Jenny to talk further about the equity issue and how you're seeing this as an equity issue and how the wards were determined and how many wards would be a part of that priority list. Thank you.
Sure. So the mobility map, which was provided, high mobility hardship index map, was created using 3 variables. It's based on the percentage of workers who commute and whose commute is greater than 90 minutes, the percentage of population that's disabled, as well as transportation costs as a percentage of income. As I understand it, this is a map that's been used for a variety of other transportation policy initiatives as well.
Yes,
Okay,
Alderman
thank you.
Rodriguez, that map was mailed to you. We can re-mail it if you received it in an email. It's in the group of the package that we sent you.
Oh no, yes, we've seen it. I just think having it again might be a good thing, but we'll look for it as well. Thank you, Madam Chair. I may come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Irvin, followed by Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also want to thank CFO Bennett for listening to the concerns from the last meeting in relation to the immobility issues across these same communities and making the gas and the transit the same so that everyone would have the opportunity to participate. One thing that does disappoint me though is the conversation I'm hearing from my colleagues in relation to providing assistance to some of the most talented individuals in our city as it comes to transportation. Not everyone has the same luxuries across our city, and we talk about equality versus equity. And let's break this down. Equality is giving everyone the same thing, but the case here is that everyone doesn't need the same thing. Equity is trying to make everybody, bring everybody to the same playing field. I don't know if you ever seen a picture where it has a guy that's looking over the fence. There's a guy that's a little shorter than him who can't look over the fence, but if you give him one box, he can look over the fence. So they're both seeing the same thing. And then there's another guy, he's shorter than the other guy. And they gave him 2 boxes so that he can see over the fence. So sometimes somebody may need 2 boxes so they can see over the fence. This is one of those cases where we're trying to create equity now. City of Chicago has a $15 billion budget, and we're sitting over here hollering and crying over $12.5 million. I think is a little bit of a fault share. So I'm hopeful that people can see that people need help. And while I wasn't a great supporter of the UBI, I do see the value in helping people. I think this is just more of an extension of helping those that are challenged in our communities. Again, I would encourage those to rethink their position and support this because it's supporting those that need it the most. And that's what equity is about. And if you want to use the lens of equity, we need to help those that need help the most. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin. Alderman Burnett, followed by Alderman Hairston.
All right. So first of all, I hope you're not referring to me about the boxes and standing on the boxes, Alderman Irving. You know, I take offense to those short jokes, man.
2 boxes.
Oh, especially come, but
You
with you, I'm gonna
get
need
3
5
boxes.
With you, I'm gonna need 5.
We have no problem.
All right, Pat. Anyway, you know, I know we only have a small amount of money. We have a small amount of time to deal with it. We do need to help people that need to be helped. I made my comments earlier, but that didn't say it that I wasn't for it. I wasn't for us giving folks money who needed it. I support this. I don't want people to get misinterpreted. Don't misinterpret what I say because I ask a question or say how I feel about something. But if we can help folks, I got people lined up in my office calling me already about this stuff, right? So that tells you what the need is. And I would tell you this, it takes a lot of humility for a person to come and ask for something like that, right? Most people are too proud to even do that. So there's people out here that need help. If we have an opportunity to help them, we need to help them. So I support this. I'm gonna do pass on this thing.
We have a lot of other comments, questions, so we will have to hold that motion. Alderman Hairston, followed by Alderman Quinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to weigh in here. I'm agreeing with all of my colleagues. Looking at the violence that we have here in the city, I think that money could be used for violence reduction. I would like to see more money go to the greater food depository. You know, everybody's doing this gas card thing, and I do recognize that it is a need for people. But I think that the need for food and for those of us that have struggled with being in food deserts and those of us that have struggled trying to get grocery stores, I think food is very important. So I don't agree with this. I'm going to talk with my community about this. But as of now, I cannot support this because there are so many more needs that we need in this city, that the people need. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hairston. Alderman Quinn, followed by Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to record it as a no.
Okay. We haven't got there yet, but your point is made. Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I've been listening to the debate. I like a robust debate about the merits of doing something like this. And the argument could be made. There are so many other needs, and I think we've seen in this city that it never stops. Every year is different. Every day is different in terms of what's happening on the streets. But this is something that is in the moment, that is happening. Probably will happen all this year and probably the early part of next year. So I do support it. But I think I do take the point of other colleagues that mentioned that there's need all around the city, not just in mobility hardship areas. And we do have to take stock of that because we kind of lump people in maps and grids. It shows obviously where a great proportion of folks are, they have the greatest need, but there's need everywhere. And I think we also have to, be cognizant of that and also do something about it. And I hope that this program is retweaked so that we have people that are emailing us that are in need in the 30th ward, in the 44th ward, because there's people in need everywhere. Giveaways are very divisive, and this is where we have to manage that, the divisiveness, because it is helping some folks and some other people not, and they feel left out. They feel that this city is becoming just a giveaway on resources that other people need. Lastly, aldermanical offices should be the preferred location where these cards should be given out. People trust the offices. People trust their aldermen. We know where it's coming from. Some people may not. Some colleagues may opt not to do that. But it makes sense that people would go and inform themselves on how to get their hands on and apply for some of these cards. I think it just makes sense that we direct it that way, and I hope we do that. And I end there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Curtis, followed by Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For some reason, my camera is disabled, but I do want to chime in on this because I've thought about it for a couple of days now. As we talk, I think this is a great gesture. But as I think about the NOF, I think about Invest Southwest. Every time I look at those maps, when you look at my community, I'm nowhere involved, and I'm in the Southwest. So I'm looking at the map right now from my computer. Once again, if everyone can't receive a piece of the pie, I don't think no one should. I don't feel that equity was done. So, and already about 10 people within the last week came in about this because they heard about it. But what am I going to tell my people? So that's all I got to say. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Curtis. Alderman Smith, and followed by Alderman Brookins.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, as you have put it, as you have designed it in this ordinance, how many people in the city will be eligible for either of these cards?
So there are approximately 1 million households in the city of Chicago, and then the eligibility of the program will include those who have below area median income, which is approximately 500,000. The program will impact 150,000 households, which would be 30% of that total eligibility pool. And that's assuming every single one of those 500,000 households apply. Also, just as a point of information to Alderman Curtis's previous comment, there will be cards going to your ward, Alderman Curtis, and so just mostly wanted to make sure you had that in.
And the other point of clarification is on the map that was passed out. I just want to make sure, especially in light of Alderman Curtis's very good question. On the map you passed out, there were 3 colors on the map: yellow, orange, and dark red. That your areas that have the lowest, what you're calling the mobility hardship areas, are the dark red ones in that picture, and those are the ones where 75% of these cards will be made available. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
And how many households do you expect are in that area of the 500,000? How many are in that?
We don't, there isn't actually census information on how many of those households have cars or ride transit. So we don't have a number for the number of households there.
Well, I get the car versus transit issue. I'm just talking about because you're giving out transit cards and gas cards, and the people are gonna have to say, I want one or the other, right? They're just right.
Yeah. So it's approximately a third of the households as compared to the entire city that's within the hardship mobility areas. I don't have a precise number, but it's approximately a third.
About a third of the total households citywide are in this hardship area. Okay. And part of the hardship is indeed access. A major part of the is where the L lines are and where they're not, and certainly my area is transit rich. And this area has fewer access to bus lines, less easy access to the L.
Actually, so the metrics used for the hardship mobility index is percentage of workers whose commute is over 90 minutes. So I guess what you're describing probably would feed into that. The percentage of the population that's disabled, as well as the transportation cost as a percentage of income.
Transportation cost as a percentage of income. Okay. And then at one point, the ordinance had a requirement that you are already getting utility relief. Is that in this ordinance today?
I don't think that was ever in the ordinance, that you're already getting utility relief. The eligibility requirement is that you have to have income below 100% of area median income. It's limited to residents over the age of 18, must be a Chicago household. And then for the gas cards, you must also have a city sticker.
Oh, you're right. So the utility, what I'm referring to is the notion of the financial relief from fines and taxes and things that was tied to your already getting utility relief.
I think that's for a different program. Reshma's on, so she could speak to that.
Yes, this is Reshma, City Comptroller, and that's right, Alderman Smith. That is a part of our Clear Path Relief Program that started in April. And so if you are enrolled as a utility billing relief participant, then you can enroll in the program at an expedited process because income verification is already done. But you don't have to be a utility billing relief participant to be able to get benefits from that CPR program.
So I guess I'm going to ask why not? Why for one program is that? Because that is an easy way of showing income. You're going to have to verify income on these gas cards.
So the income verifications are different. And the reason they're different is we have to follow for UBR. We have to follow CETA requirements. And there's a program called LAHEAP that is a federally funded program that requires us to look at 200% of the federal poverty level.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking at area median income because the impact is more localized for Chicago for this program. So we are looking at a different metric, and that's why we're not able to match it up. I know that there was, and I'm sure Jenny can talk about that, there was extensive research done on what sort of criteria to use for income eligibility. But I think the one that we're using now for this program is impacting more people that really need the relief.
And Alderman Smith, what we are doing and have already started the process of doing is cross-marketing the program to those who applied for relief through other programs. So utility billing relief is one, the rental assistance program is another, Chicago Connected is another, and also importantly, trying to ensure that we're outreaching to folks so that they can have, kind of, for those who don't follow the city's, actions closely, that they can have some awareness.
So my last question is, if I were to look at what I would call the odds here, if there's 500,000 eligible, 150, I assume there's only going to be one thing per household, one card. Yep. So if there's 500 eligible, you got 150 chances. That's if it was 450, it'd be 1 in 3. So it's a little bit less than 1 in 3 chances to get the card. And then if you are in one of these lower income, in one of the red areas, your odds are much greater of getting the card, right? Than if you don't live in those areas. You have an idea of what that is?
I think it'll depend on the reception that we get in terms of those who apply. And, and it'll vary just based on each location.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Brookins, followed by Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first comment is that when people ask us to describe our job as aldermen, I always use the analogy that we're like a person going to a grammar school birthday party with 30 kids in a class and we only have 5 cupcakes, and that we're going to give the cupcakes out, but who gets what cupcakes? If you give them to, the first 5 kids, 25 kids are going to say that they got nothing and you did nothing for me. If we cut them all up and give everybody some, the people are going to say that you only gave us crumbs. And so that there is a no-win situation, but that the best thing that we could do as a city is if we're going to help someone, not necessarily give them crumbs where nobody would be satisfied. And I am glad that we got away from getting rid of the gas tax, because that would have, in my opinion, been giving people crumbs and nobody would have been satisfied and the city would have been hurt. But if we're going to do something, I think that this provides a meaningful and a significant help to the people who do get the card. But you know, so I do like the way that the program has evolved. I guess my question now becomes is, before these cards are issued, will we have already determined the universal basic income recipients, and will they be qualified for the cards too? Because then that may get us into a problem that some people are getting everything.
So I don't believe that I'll defer to Susie on the timeline of universal basic income, but that the eligibility for this program doesn't exclude anybody who may be applying for universal basic income. So, you know, I don't know, Susie, if you want to add anything else to that.
I do not have anything additional to add. I guess we could look at the timeline. As you know, as we talked about last time, you know, this is scheduled to start, you know, monthly in May. But to Jenny's point, I don't think it excludes anyone that are part of other assistance programs that the city's providing.
Yeah. I could see us being open to criticism that if there's certain people getting several benefits from the city, they get the porch program, they get the universal basic income, now they're getting the gas card, and people within the same block are saying, okay, we get nothing, and there are these few people who seem to be getting everything. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Brookins. Alderman Villegas, followed by Alderman Laboris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add my 2 cents as well. I too would have rather seen the 12.5 million added to the GBI in order to impact 1,700 families, not just for 2 weeks, but for a whole year, which would really be a game changer. That being said, is there still an opportunity to expand this map in order to capture more of the northwest and southwest sides of the city? Because that's a little bit of my hesitancy, is that I'd like to see a little bit more northwest and southwest.
I think to the extent that we don't get enough reception, you know, as a part of the program, we do have some flexibility to administer it so that we can ensure the money is distributed to folks. And that's, you know, part of what's been incorporated within the ordinance.
Well, I mean, I'm all for, especially with the American Rescue Plan money, trying to help families out and make sure they can recover from this pandemic. But in this current format right now, I just can't support it. I want to support this. I just want to see it come a little bit further northwest. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Villegas. Alderman Laboris, followed by Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've heard some excellent points discussed by my colleagues, and it is concerning, but you know, here's my question. I believe it does, and maybe somebody already mentioned this. Will each applicant that is, well, each applicant has to apply for this card, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, now here's my concern. John Doe gets a card. Is that card going to come in John Doe's name? And is John Doe able to sell this card and so someone else can use it? Or will there be will it be blocked off so only he or she can use this card applicable to his or her need for gas?
Yeah, so it'll be in John Doe's name, and it'll also be restricted to gas purchases only. So it'll be restricted to John Doe.
And they can do whatever they want to once they go get gas, right? I mean, technically.
They can only purchase gas at the pump. That's the only allowable use.
Right, but I think John Doe can sell the card to somebody else.
John Doe, I guess, in the same way your credit card, you could give to somebody else and they could use it. That's a possibility, although I would consider that to be credit card fraud in general.
Yeah, would that be a fraudulent use?
If somebody else used your card, yes.
Okay. No, thank you. And I will reluctantly support this because I know there's people that are honest and they have some needs. I wish it was more applicable to other areas of the city of Chicago as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Raboris. Alderman Rodriguez, followed by Alderman Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just have a question in regards to the mobility map. I just took a second look at it. Could you remind me again, the communities in the darkest red, I understood it as wards were experiencing the hardships would be prioritized, but the map that we received is by community area. That's correct, right?
It is by community area, yes.
Okay.
It's not by ward. Yeah.
Okay. So the prioritization will occur by community area, and what's the mechanism by which you will decide or how to implement or decide how someone is a resident in that community area?
It'll be by their address. So it'll be by the address they put on their application.
Okay, so you'll geocode it somehow.
Yes.
And the vendor will have, or the volunteer vendor will have the ability to geocode that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and remind me again what percentage of the support will be going specifically to those areas?
It's 75%, which will go towards those community areas, and then 25% citywide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that cleared it up for me. Thank you.
Okay.
So Jenny, previously there was some discussion about doing this by ward. So now this is being done by community area.
I'm sorry. So the 75% is by community area, but then the citywide will be by ward. Just so I'm clear about that. The hardship mobility index is by community area, which is what the map is that got submitted. And then the citywide allocations will be equal amongst each ward.
And those would be the areas in yellow and orange?
No, the yellow and orange is really just the map in general, but that the citywide areas, the citywide allocation, the 25% will be by ward, and it'll be equal amounts by ward.
Okay, so if you are a ward in a dark red area, which has been the beneficiary of the 75%, are you still able to participate in the citywide allocation?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Alderman Sposato, followed by Alderman Lee.
That's okay. No problem, Chairwoman. And thank you, because you asked part of my question already. So here's the other part. Jenny, can you talk about why what the rationale was with the move to 75% on the gas cards as well for the high mobility hardship areas versus just lowering the AMI percentage from 100%?
So lowering the AMI percentage would have applied the income threshold across the city. What we want to do is to target the policy outcomes of the Chicago Moves program towards those who have the highest mobility needs. Within the mobility hardship index, there is a income factor. So income is accounted for within that mobility index. But mostly what we wanted to do was ensure that, as Alderman Irvin put it, that the program was addressing those who have the most needs by way of transportation mobility.
Great, thank you. And then one last thing. So of the 25% that is allocated for citywide, that's going to be divided equally among the 50 wards, regardless of whether or not you fall into a high mobility hardship area.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that's over the course of 5 drawings.
Yes.
For each ward. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Jenny, what would the number of gas carts be as an example, citywide?
Citywide, so
Divided by
it's
ward,
750 per ward.
750 per ward, okay. Alderman Spizzato, followed by Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. Thank you once again, Jenny. Jenny, I have some questions once again. So the amount for an individual and for two people is like roughly 65 and 75,000.
One or two people, yes, would be 65 to 75.
Right, so I'm just going to use two people as an example. So here's my example in my question. John and Mary Smith make, for senior citizens, they make 75 grand a year between them, or less, or, less than 75. And just because they're making less than that, which may be just their Social Security, which may be way less than that, 40 or 50,000. But what if John and Mary Smith are millionaires? What if they have a lot of money in their bank, account? Does that mean anything, or is it just what they make or take in for the year?
It's what they take in for the year. But, I would also offer that we're talking about 500,000 households, and the 150,000, the program covers 150,000 households, which in essence means that, we would be addressing 30% of the eligible population. And we know that, transportation, there are lots of people who don't have money, who actually have a lot of debt, which is the reverse of the example that you provided, which, ultimately at some point, when we look at income verification, we kind of have to draw the line somewhere.
I'm not talking about people that don't have money. I'm talking about people that do have money. I'm talking, if we do this, we want to get this in the hands of people that really need it, not people that just want it because they can get it. I know many of people feel. I volunteered at a food pantry for 10 years. And many of the people needed it, but there was always some people that I knew from my own community would go there just thought they should get it just because I'm a senior citizen or whatever. They think it's government funded. They wanted their share. So all I'm saying is, realistically, this gas cards could get in the hands of people that really, really don't need it, because they have a lot of money in the bank, even though they only make so much a year. I'm not trying to trick you. I mean, this is just how I feel. This is another negative of it. But you don't have to answer it, but I think you answered it already. And then lastly, can somebody get both? So can John and Mary Smith get both the gas card and the UBI? They're not eligible just for one.
They could get gas card and UBI. They can't. John and Mary can't each get a gas card.
Right, that I know. They can't each get one, and unless they claimed, or unless it's a guy and a girl living together and they're not married, and they say, that all depends on what it is. But yes, if they're married, they can only get one per the household. But if they're single individuals, then they can each get one.
Yeah, I would offer on the UBI, the one other comment I'd make there is that the intention of UBI isn't just about providing the amount of money per month, but it's also really more intended to help stitch together the support services of the city and the resources of the city to help them with, being able to have the resources to find their way out of poverty. So, that is part of the intent, is actually to help, them connect to other resources of the city in terms of the UBI program.
Okay, so once again, I don't want to keep beating it about. We just think there's better places we could put this money: food pantries, securing our buses and train stations, half price bus card. We recently just divested from fossil fuel companies, and then now we're giving people money for gas cards. It just doesn't make any sense to me, amongst a whole load of reasons why. But I'm all for, I have no problem making bus rides or train rides half price, so on and so forth. Securing our trains much better. We see all the bad things that happen. I don't know what to refer to them as on train stations. They're just do what they want over there, and people are certainly, truly, honestly, I guess everywhere, because if I know people in my community are afraid to ride them, I'm sure that's across the city. But once again, thank you for the information, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spizzato. Vice Chair Silverstein. You're on mute. No, we still can't hear you. I'm going to come back to you. Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I think that this most recent update to the program raises more concerns for me in terms of whether or not this is the right program for the city of Chicago in this moment. First and foremost, there's the rendering of the card, that displays Mayor Lightfoot's name very prominently. It's no secret that in just a few months, we're going to have to begin campaigning and face the voters. And there are many questions in terms of where this program came from, if it was inspired by Dr. Willie Wilson's gas giveaway. I've heard from some constituents who have said that they feel like this is the mayor trying to prove that she has the biggest gas hose. So to me, I think that I really do not like that this has the mayor's name prominently on the gas card. I also think that, the metric that was used to determine where these cards should be targeted to leaves out a lot of struggling families. Oftentimes in areas with high displacement pressure, where we have a lot of very affluent families and a lot of very poor families, that means that like in communities like the ones that I represent, whether that be Hermosa or Logan Square or Avondale, that the most struggling families are left out. And so when I look at that map, what I see is that poor and working class and struggling families in Logan Square, which there are still many families that meet that description in West Logan Square and in Hermosa and Avondale, they are going to be left out of the targeted benefit here. I wish that, the target would not have been based on geographic areas, but again, based upon income more broadly, universally for the city of Chicago. I'll also say that, I have a lot of concerns in terms of what we as a city are doing to make sure that our residents can rely on the CTA. At this moment, there is no mask mandate for the CTA, which is putting a lot of families at risk. I've heard from many constituents who have said, I no longer feel comfortable riding the CTA, and this is now compounding that even more so. So I expect that we're going to continue to see a drop in ridership. And then it's just been a nightmare. I get so many complaints from my residents consistently in terms of, waiting for Blue Line service, trying to get home during rush hour from downtown, heading north towards the Loop. It has just been a mess. And so, to give folks a card to say, here, get on the CTA, when there is no mask mandate and a lot of people do not feel safe. There's so many studies that show that masking prevents the spread of COVID-19. Can you just imagine on those crowded trains during rush hour being surrounded by people that are coughing without a mask? So there's already so many reasons why people are not riding the train. And I don't think that this is necessarily going to address that issue. So I wish that we would think about this plan holistically. I think part of the reasons why we're not thinking through this plan holistically is because it does seem like it was put together very quickly to compete with Mr. Willie Wilson. And so for all those reasons, I just can't see myself supporting this program at this time. This does not feel like good public policy. Again, I would like to see a plan to really improve transportation in the city of Chicago. You're not going to have a plan to improve transportation and to improve access to transportation for poor and working and middle-class families that does not include a plan to increase the service and to better the service and reliability in the CTA. So my hope is that we as a city, we as a council can take that up. Yes, they're a sister agency, but we have a responsibility to the voters who elected us to make sure that the CTA is being what it needs to be to get people from point A to point B safely and reliably. And at this moment in time, it's not doing that. And it seems like there's no leadership coming from the fifth floor to get the CTA on the right track. So for all those reasons that I've just listed, I just can't see myself supporting this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Alderman Sawyer, followed by Alderman Osterman.
Chairman, I had no question. Our question was already answered. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you very much, Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Osterman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am going to support this, understanding that it's going to go to many communities that are feeling the economic brunt of COVID and everything else more than mine. But it's important that I also want to echo some comments that have been raised about the CTA and safety. The CTA, whether it's the rail lines or the buses, is how working families and poor individuals in Chicago get to work and school every single day. And we as a city need to make sure that those are accessible, but also safe. And I also have had people who have been reluctant to take public transportation because of safety. So I support this today, but I think collectively, whether it's South Side, West Side, or North Side, all of us are in agreement that the one of the most important things we can do is to make sure that it's safe for riders to take that line. And that's something that we have to be vigilant on and will be vigilant on to make sure that it improves over what it is today. Thank you.
Chairman, can you hear me?
I'm calling on you next. Thank you, Alderman Osterman. Vice Chair Silverstein.
Thank
We
you.
can hear you.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. I just needed something. I want to make sure I heard this correctly. You said that the area in the red is getting 75% of the gas and the transit cards, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you said that 25% is going to everyone else, including the area in the red?
Yes, that's correct.
So then when you say 25% is going to everyone else, that's really not the correct percentage.
It's 25% is going citywide. So
the people in the red are actually getting more than 75%.
Yes, that's correct.
Just wanted to clarify that to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Excuse me. Thank you, Vice Chair Silverstein. Alderman Mitz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, I wanted to weigh in on the issue, and whereas we may have different opinions, there's someone who could use this help. And I think it's our job and duty, at least I'm going to be able to support and then try to make sure that the information is out here where people can get this help at. I don't want to hold back from trying to just help someone else to not be in that category of homelessness or not having a place to stay. And then I think that I can walk and chew gum at the same time because I feel CTA is an issue. So therefore, I set up a meeting with CTA and having them to come out, and we're going to tour these areas of concerns that I have so that I can point out and keep holding everyone accountable. But you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just don't want to do that one at a time when we are in the unknown. We're walking in unknown. So open our eyes just a little bit and try to look at how this can help. We all can agree and disagree we can do that at the same time, but let's make sure that we are making it better for all of Chicago. And believe me, there are some folks out there who would probably appreciate having this opportunity that would, and I don't care whose name is on it, somebody have to sign somebody's check. So as long as they get the money and be able, they're not going to look at the name, they're going to look at the amount on that check to be able to help themselves. So I just wanted to weigh in and share my thoughts, and that I'm going to be supporting it, whether and anything else that we can do to help. This is a start, and I'll be looking and working with the budget office and seeing how else that we can help our communities and these families as they're struggling and trying to come back from this pandemic. So thank you, Madam Chairman, for allowing me to be able to speak, and I'm going to be in support of it.
Thank you very much, Alderman Mitz. Alderman Tabares. Alderman Tabarez.
Yes, my first question is can you reconfirm how much we're spending on these gas and transit cards?
It's a
The total amount,
$12.5 million.
$12.5 million.
Yes.
I agree with some of my colleagues who mentioned that they want to see the money spent on something more sustainable. And I want to see this funding spent on supporting our Chicago Police Department. Right now, there are two police helicopters. One of them is 28 years old, and it can break down any day, and it can be down in 3 days or 3 months, because the older the helicopter, the harder the parts are to find. And with the issue of carjacking on the rise here in the city, we should be investing on resources to help our Chicago Police Department to make our city safer. So a new federal helicopter costs $8.1 million, give or take. $8.1 million, give or take, for a new federal helicopter, a brand new helicopter. And here we are spending $12.5 million on gas and transit cards. So for that reason, I'm going to be voting no, because I want to see our city investing in resources for our police, resources to make our city safer, resources to address the issue of carjacking on the rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Tabarez. Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to echo, I really like the helicopter idea from Alderman Tabarez, knowing that we only have one helicopter because the other one is always down. It's down about 95% of the time. And if we just added a little more to it, we could actually probably buy 2 helicopters to combat all the crime that's really was hurting this city as a whole. But I also wanted to address that, just last week, a resident called me that applied for a new furnace out of the Department of Housing. And they got approved. And then they were told the day before that furnace was to be installed that the Department of Housing ran out of funds. And so I have a senior that has to wait until possibly November to get a new furnace. And so, in my opinion, what's more important, a senior that doesn't have heat, or to give out free gas cards as a promotional gimmick for re-election campaign? And so any day of the week, I'm gonna choose my resident that needs a new furnace. And I'm gonna choose a helicopter or 2 to possibly help with the carjacking and the crime that's hurting our city. I think our priorities are messed up. And I think this is a gimmick once again. And again, when it comes to the full city council, if it makes it out of committee, I'll be voting no. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Alderman Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak and kind of listen in to everyone else's take. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of voice my concerns with it. I do think, with all due respect to the budget office and the work that's been done, because I know how much work you all do to put this up together, it does feel rushed and responsive or reactive to what Willie Wilson was doing or is continuing to do. And so I did just have concerns about that when I think about the fact that it's $12.5 million that could go to just people, subsidizing more gas usage, more carbon being put onto the air. And, we have been asking for kind of over a year now for a third of that amount just to cover ash tree inoculations to increase the trees canopy. When I think about what we're kind of incentivizing by putting funds towards the gas guzzling, I don't feel comfortable with that. I think if it was mostly or exclusively for public transportation, I might feel different, because it would incentivize more ridership and kind of help out in that regard. So I really just have a lot of problems with that, with its execution. When we heard about it before, we sent out our newsletter to all our neighbors in the 40th to get their take on it, right? I didn't want to just be stuck on kind of what my first instinct on it was. And overwhelmingly, meaning there were no emails to the contrary, overwhelmingly the neighbors in the 40th Ward, for a variety of reasons, whether it was the environment, whether it was kind of the precedent for what it's setting, what it's looking like, the spending of taxpayer dollars, they were in overwhelming opposition to this moving forward. And that's just without hearing some of the other takes from our colleagues here. So I just think when we talk about, our budget that we then have to vote on, when we talk about increasing property taxes to make up for gaps, to tell people that, hey, we're doing some of this because we're handing out gas cards, I have a problem, because I don't think it solves the actual problem that we have. And I think there's, definitely some, not large political, but small political and looking at which wards, which is why lowering it way below the average median income would have been something that maybe I'd be more supportive of, as it would deal with more amount of people that need help rather than trying to allocate them in certain wards. But yeah, I think we can do a lot more with the 12.5 than what this proposes to do. This is a bit of a rush job to try to do something in response to something that we all know was causing a problem in the first place. When Willie Wilson did it, we were causing traffic jams and it wasn't helpful. And like I said in the last committee hearing, the difference between what Willie Wilson is doing and what the city is doing is that Willie Wilson is coming out of his own pocket with his own money, whereas what's being proposed here is spending the taxpayer dollar to do the same. So I won't be in support of this should it make it to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Riley?
Thank you, Chairman. And I guess I have to echo Alderman Vasquez and other speakers' comments on this program. I compliment the mayor and her team for recognizing that a lot of people are struggling right now. And that's in part due to the high gas prices, certainly inflation and other issues. But I was disappointed that this program wasn't tweaked after the last committee hearing to shift away from subsidizing gasoline usage and really to focus on public transit. I said it then, I'll say it again, that I just have a fundamental disagreement as a matter of policy using taxpayer dollars to subsidize big oil. And really, at the end of the day, those households, that select number of households that do benefit from this, it's 2 tanks of gas and then it's gone. And as others have said earlier about the CTA system, we're constantly trying to promote and support our public transit system as a way to get cars off the street. That's good for the environment. I think this program runs counter to that effort. We've got greenhouse emissions goals in the city of Chicago, and making it cheaper for some households to continue to drive cars, I don't see that as a good point of public policy. I think there's a better way to invest this money where there's a longer return on the investment. And some folks have talked about the police helicopters. And look, that's an issue that's we've talked about in budget hearings for the last several years, and yet still we've got that pressing need. Taxpayers want to make investments in things like that because they know that there's a legacy return on investment. Giving away a couple tanks of gas isn't really going to move the needle for anybody once that gas is burnt. So again, I do credit the mayor for wanting to provide assistance in a time when a lot of folks need it, but I'd argue this is not the way to do it. I'd much rather see us invest this money in making the CTA, especially the trains, much safer than they are today. We all are hearing from our constituents and we're seeing it with our own eyes that the CTA system today is not up to snuff. And if we're encouraging folks to use that, especially folks who depend on it to get to and from work early in the morning and late at night, we need it to be safe. So I would much, much rather take this gas card money and use that to put cops on the trains where they should be, like every other big city does, and also to make them cleaner and safer generally. So put me down also, unfortunately, as having to vote no on this, understanding it's well intended, but it's just not good public policy. Thank you, Chairman. And I'd request a roll call vote.
I'm going to call a roll call vote. Thank you, Alderman Riley. Alderman Sposato, this is the third time is the charm.
I know it is. I never do this, Madam Chair, and I'm short all the time. I'm never long, at least, So I appreciate you indulging me and giving me a third shot. And this question is for you, Madam Chair. I think you heard the same thing over and over. You think there's any way to hold this for a while and make it a little bit better for more sustainable stuff? Something that we heard about the helicopter. Here's something a lot of people don't know. Right now, Does anybody know how many police officers we have, Adam, in the department? No, I don't think we do. 11,800. And that's the number as of 3 weeks ago. So it's probably less than that. And it keeps going down. We have a brutal summer coming up. I'm guessing it's going to be a brutal summer. I just think there's better things we could put it in. Yes, I understand it's well intended. I don't have a problem with the mayor's name on it because the mayor's name's on everything we do in the city. So that's not an issue with me. But I just have an issue with something that poof, it's going to be gone at the click of a fingers. And there's other things we can do. We heard a lot of good ideas. That's just my thing is I would love to see us hold this. I know you know I don't support it. I'm voting no if we vote on it. But I would love to see it be held and modify this and put this money at better use. But thank you very much for giving me 3 bites at the apple. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spizzato. Alderman Hairston, followed by Alderman Mitz. You're freezing again, Alderman Hairston.
Madam Chair, I agree with Alderman Spizzato. Oh, I don't know why I'm freezing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It doesn't show me freezing. Mark this down. I'm agreeing once again with Alderman Spizzato. I think that we need to hold this. I would not want to not let it pass committee. I think that there's a lot of work can be done. I think that the alder people have given lots of good suggestions. And I would suggest to the budget office and to the mayor's office that, you know, you have a lot of people here that are committed to making sure that we are doing things that make sense, not only policy-wise, but actually have an opportunity to help people, help all the people in the city of Chicago. And as such, I would hope that we would not pass this out, continue to work on this. And if it comes up for a vote, I would ask my colleagues not to support this, and let's work on something that makes sense. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hairston. Alderman Mitz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to know if Ms. Bennett, you shared with us during this briefings that we held. I asked the question, why were we doing the gas cards? And was it because of what Dr. Willie Wilson had done in the community? And your response to me was there were several other states that had been doing, and you all were looking at them. Can you explain that process again?
Sure. So there are several states that have provided relief by way of the increasing cost of gas. 11 states who have provided such relief. As it relates to gas or transit card rebates, which is similar to the program that we're proposing here. The state of California has provided both gas and transit card relief. The LA County also has provided transit card relief, and Chicago Heights most recently also, as an example, in the state of Illinois, also recently provided for a gas card relief.
And were those funds being used from government?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to make sure that was on the record, that we knew that it wasn't just because what Dr. Wilson had done, and I'm sure everyone grateful for the work that he did in providing his own money. But government all across the states are doing similar programs to help to lift families out of the situation that they're in around the country. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Emma.
you.
That was something I was going to say at the end, but you covered it marvelously, as they say. Alderman Irvin?
Yeah, just real quick. I think that we kind of meandered off of what our initial intent here is about. It's about providing relief to residents. Now, everybody has their own idea of how to provide relief. This is a pressing matter for most of our constituents in our various wards. Everyone is looking at this. Everyone is being, that's feeling this pain at the pump. And again, this is a small way to help some of our most challenged residents. We talk about helicopters, we talk about ash trees, we talk about a bunch of different things, but what are we going to do to help those that are trying to get to work? The CTA is not a viable option for a lot of residents in some of our communities. You go to some of these train stations and they need some help. And we pointed these things out to CTA. But again, the average individual in some of our communities uses the car as the primary means of transportation. And those families, and we're talking about use that $60,000 number. That's the family making minimum wage. 2 people working, making minimum wage. That's who you're cutting out when you vote against this. This average everyday citizen. Now, I know nobody in this council qualifies for this, and maybe that's part of the problem. That we need to stop focusing on the top and need to focus on some people that really need the assistance. And again, using the lens of equity, it's about helping those that need help the most. Now, I can understand for political reasons why people may not vote for this. But again, we need to be looking at what we can do to help those that need the most help. Because if we help somebody get to work, that means that's one less person that we're worried about trying to rob somebody. So again, I think we need to look at this in a holistic way and make it make sense to help those that need help the most. So there's no other behind me. I call the question.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin. So I just want to weigh in here as well. You know, we just sat here for the last 2 hours doing the people's work, and Alderman Mitz, in her comments on a previous item, talked about the woman and her 3 children in a car. And we have to keep our focus on who we're trying to help here. Our residents, our constituents are hurting. We're coming out of a pandemic, and after coming out of a pandemic, we're hit with a war in Ukraine and the fact that we have rising gas prices. And this is really impacting our families. And we have to be thoughtful and mindful about that. Now, people talk about, you know, well, we need to put the money in mental health care, we need to put the money in violence prevention, food insecurity, buying a helicopter. But we all voted on a budget last year that was historic, that gave more money to violence prevention, put more money in mental health services, put more money in food insecurity. I know the budget office is working on, with the CPD, on how to purchase additional helicopters. And it's not just about the hardware, it's about how you fund that. Who's going to maintain those helicopters? Who's going to staff them? It's not just as a quick, easy thing since we passed the budget in November to buy new helicopters. In terms of the CTA and making it more secure, I recall a few weeks ago that the mayor and the superintendent of police and the head of CTA talked about a new program that was putting more security officers on the CTA system. So we need to let that see that work and how that's going to work. In terms of the mayor's name on everything, let's not be petty. The mayor's name is on everything. You get off a plane, you're coming into Chicago, it says Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Your check says Mayor Lori Lightfoot. That is a non-issue and really very, very petty. Lastly, whether, you know, yes, Dr. Willie Wilson used his own money to give people relief, and we applaud him for that. That was very generous, very charitable, something he didn't have to do, and he did it. But the motivation of the mayor is the same. She wants to help people, and this is something that we should support. Our constituents are looking for us to lead. Our constituents are looking for us to use money that's really going to support them, and this is an opportunity that we have to do that. With that said, I will call for a roll call vote on this item. The motion was made by Alderman Burnett to pass, and we will call the roll. Vice Chair Silverstein.
No.
Alderman King. Alderman Hairston.
No.
Alderman Sawyer.
No.
Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Solosky Garza.
No.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
Alderman Cardenas.
Yes.
Alderman Quinn.
No.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis.
No.
Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins.
Yes, aye.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Aye.
Alderman Tabarez.
No.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Irvin.
Yes.
Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Raboris.
Yes.
Alderman Wagisback.
Yes.
Alderman Austin. Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
No.
Alderman Villegas.
No.
Alderman Mitz.
Yes.
Alderman Spizzato.
Nick Spizzato votes no.
Alderman Napolitano. Alderman Riley.
No.
Alderman Smith.
No.
Alderman Tunney.
Yes.
Alderman Kappelman.
Yes.
Alderman Osterman.
Aye.
Chairman Dowell votes aye. 15 ayes and 11 nays. The item passes committee.
I think it was 12 nays, Chairman.
12 nays.
One, two,
I think you
three,
missed.
four,
I think you missed Ramirez Rosa voting no.
He didn't say anything. I called his name. He didn't say
He
anything.
said no. Here's Rosa votes no.
Yes, he did. He said no.
I did not hear him say no, so
Oh,
we
we
have
heard.
counted.
Let's ask him.
He
I
said
heard-
no. He
I
said
didn't hear
no.
him. I didn't hear him, Alderman Hairston. I have counted him towards this vote. The vote is 15 yeas and 12 nays. The item passes. The motion carries and the ordinance will be reported out at our next city council meeting. There being no further business before the committee, can I get a motion to adjourn by the affirmative?
Motions to adjourn.
By the members present for the roll call. Alderman Cardenas so moves, hearing no objection, so ordered. The Committee on Budget and Government Operations is hereby adjourned. Have a great afternoon,
When I
everyone.
started this.